Welcome everybody to the 7th annual Tennis Talk Awards. We've done this for 7 years. Jesus. All right. Well, yeah. Seventh time we're doing this. Now, it's voted by you. It's not voted by me. I vote once, just like everybody else. So it's all picked by you. So whenever anybody has any problems, I don't think this is right, why did this win? Talk amongst yourselves. It's not my fault. Not my fault. Don't come at me. I don't want anybody coming at me. You all voted for this. So we went with majority. If you haven't voted, voting's closed. We closed the voting just before the stream, just because the results have been done. Okay. But yeah, so to be honest, looking at the votes and looking at the results, haven't been too many close ones. It's been pretty one-sided for the most part. I mean, it was pretty on the men's side. It was definitely a more obvious. Even on the women's side, there was categories that made a lot more sense. So yeah, so it's pretty. It's still very very interesting. This to give you the percentages as per the voting. What won, because some won by a landslide, which is crazy. But thank you to Edward, Tori for becoming members, and also Zero for the 12 months and Dutchy for the 33 months. Appreciate that. By the way, how are we doing with no tennis? There's nothing on. Well, there's challenges, I think. I've been watching a little bit of challenges and stuff, but God, it's weird. I feel like this season, like this off-season out of all the off-seasons, has been the least, even since the Davis Cup didn't have even that many massive names. It's weird. It feels very quiet. I will watch the Mickey Mouse tournament. Well, Fonseca is not playing, so next gen finals looked a little bit different. But yeah, there will be stuff in December though. Hey, Pastel, thank you for becoming a member. Appreciate it. I was watching old matches since tennis ended. Yeah, I've done a little bit of that. I've watched a couple of older matches. I rewatched today a bit of the stream of the French Open final. Yeah, French Open final. That's definitely one to watch. In the off season, you've got nothing else to do. Yeah, Benchik's playing, Tien's playing, but now we might look. I don't know. Fonseca was the reason we'd watch the next gen finals, so he's not playing, so it's a little bit. We'll see. We'll see how in a couple of weeks how much we want to watch or how much we're missing tennis by then. Make myself feel better by thinking how so many players have already started their preseason. Yeah, I know, right? A lot of players are already getting in the gym. Yeah, who else playing the next gen? So like, Menchik and Tien are the two big ones. They're the two big ones. All right, now let's get to these awards. We'll keep chatting as well. This is going to be, it's not a very formal stream. Very excited to see who wins. So yeah, so we've got, I think 20 categories. 20. So a Fairytale run, the non-slam tournament of the year, the Grand Slam of the year, so which was the best slam of the year, because it changes every year. It's not just Wimbledon, because even though Wimbledon's the right answer, Wimbledon, the matches weren't as interesting as some of the other tournaments sometimes. Comeback Player of the Year, WTA Coach of the Year, ATP Coach of the Year, WTA and ATP Most Improved, WTA and ATP Rising Star, Rivalry of the Year for men and women, the Upset of the Year for both, non-Grand Slam Match of the Year, which was the hardest one to pick for both, because there wasn't many obvious picks, but there were definitely some picks. Slam Match of the Year, and then the Player of the Year. So they are the categories. I don't know if that was 20. Some of them I've combined just to make it, because like Comeback Player of the Year, I don't know how many, I couldn't think of 4 players for men and 4 players for the ladies, so we just combined it. Either way, I think it was there was one obvious Comeback Player of the Year for the whole of tennis. I don't think any, on the men's side, it was very, very tricky to find, to try and figure it out. It's -11 here. Want to trade weather? No, it's just raining and normal here, so I'm not too mad. By the way, the reason why we're doing the awards today, we're going to do them yesterday, or last night, my time, but I didn't consider Thanksgiving. I didn't realize Thanksgiving was on the day before or the night before, so I thought, we'll give everybody a day to recover, and give everybody time to make it easy for everybody to have it now. Happy Thanksgiving, by the way. We don't do Thanksgiving in Australia, so I wish we did. The food looks delicious. Have I seen Wicked for Good? I did. When did I see it? I think I saw it last week. Yeah, I saw Wicked for Good. I didn't like it as much as the first one. All right, let's get the first category. So, Fairytale run of the year. So, these are the Fairytale runs of the year. We have keys of the Australian Open, of course, went through and took out Raducanu. She took out, I think, Svitolina. And then Swiatek and Sabalenka in the final and saved match points against Swiatek in the semis. So keys of the Australian Open, one of the all-time Grand Slam runs. Vachereau at Shanghai, of course, came through the qualies. Beat Rune, beat Djokovic, beat his cousin in the final out of nowhere. I think he was outside the 150 or something. And he's inside the top 30 or 40 now. So Vachereau in Shanghai, iconic run. Mboko in Canada, similar to Vachereau, kind of came out of nowhere, but was having a really good season at the start of the year. So it wasn't like a random, wasn't a super surprise if you'd been paying attention to the earlier parts of the season. But it did come out of nowhere, winning the whole thing, beating I think Osaka in the final, if I can remember, and also taking out Raducanu along the way as well. And then Menchik in Miami, which I think is a little bit underrated because it kind of was in that weird period where Sinner wasn't playing, so a lot of people kind of dropped off. But also, Miami was known for something else that happened on the women's side. So, yeah, I think that was a little underrated. Of course, beat Djokovic in the final when Djokovic was trying to get his 100th title. So, yeah. So, with 57% of the votes, I don't have a drum roll, so we're just going to have to go with it. 57% of the votes, you guys all predicted and picked. And, I mean, but would I have picked this? Maybe. It was Vachereau in Shanghai. Hello? Why is it not working? Vachereau in Shanghai. Oh, because I don't have the sounds ready. Okay, cool. Vachereau in Shanghai. That's it. Just put the drum rolls in the chat. Like I said, this is super scuffed. All right. Look, I probably would have gone maybe Keys, but because I think Keys at a slam and winning her first slam the way she did was what I thought was Fairytale run. But as a qualifier, winning the tournament and again, he did beat Djokovic along the way, of course, and he did beat Rune, which was big. So yeah. So Vachereau, I don't think you could have there wasn't any wrong prediction. I think all of them were great Fairytale runs. 57% of the votes went to Vachereau, 31% of the votes went to Keys, 10% went to Mboko, and only 2% of people voted for Menchik, which is a little bit interesting. So there you go. That is the Fairytale run of the year. Now, you could have was there any other Fairytale? We only picked 4. I only made it because if I give it like 10 options, it's going to be a pain. So I think I don't think we missed anything else. I mean, Fairytale, they all went and won the title. That's why I picked all of those as the nominations. But I don't think did we miss any other ones? Did anybody else have a Fairytale run that I'm missing out? I can't think. Draper in Indian Wells, maybe. I mean, maybe like Andreeva or something in Indian Wells. It's weird because, like, I feel like between February and April, it was very, like, I think a lot of things got missed. Like, that part of the year was a blur. Like, after the Australian Open and before the Clay, I think that kind of part of the year just got missed. Like, Indian Wells feels, like, strange, and Miami and even the tournaments in February, they always get missed though. But nobody remembers Doha and Dubai, which were great events. But there you go. There's the fairy tale of the year, and Basharov in Shanghai. Cannot think of anything else. Yeah, I don't think so. Dimitrov until he got injured. Yeah, but I mean, fairy tale. I mean, not all fairy tales end well, but that we try and make them good. We try and pick the positive ones. Yeah, maybe Gauff at the French. Yeah, Swiatek at Wimbledon. I mean, we could have picked those two. Those two at the Slams, pretty good. Getting over the turkey coma. Yeah, we don't have Thanksgiving here. Just not a thing. But I'm seeing all the photos and seeing all the food. Looks delicious. Yeah, Fonseca won 2 titles. I mean, Fonseca winning in Buenos Aires was pretty good. But again, that was in February. We just all forget what happens in February. I think it's because we're all focusing on other things because another big thing happened during that time, and that was the focus. And then everything after that was kind of like, well, so-and-so's not here, so I guess nothing matters. And then the clay was all about Alcaraz. I mean, Ruud winning in Madrid was pretty fun too, right? That was a pretty nice. That was a feel-good moment. All right, now let's go and get through the next 2 categories: the Tournament of the Year and the Grand Slam Tournament. Now, this is not based on. Well, it's based on your votes, but it's not really about what's your favorite tournament, or it's about what was the best tournament this year, because every year it changes. Sometimes Indian Wells is great because it has a Synchraz final or something, or sometimes other tournaments are great because of other reasons. But for the non-Grand Slam Tournament of the Year, we had Indian Wells, Miami, Canada, and the ATP WTA Finals. I mean, it also depends on matches as well, matchups. So that's another reason why these 4 were picked. I mean, in Indian Wells, we obviously had Draper versus Alcaraz. We had Rune in the final against Draper. We had on the women's side, Andreeva beating Swiatek and Sabalenka. That was huge. We had a final Australian Open final rematch in Indian Wells as well. Miami, which again kind of got forgotten a little bit. Obviously, Menchik getting the win. Was the big story. Even early in the tournament, remember how Fonseca was taking on Tien, and we had Fonseca versus Demonor. Those matches were crazy atmosphere. There was all that stuff. Canada, Shelton getting his first 1,000, and of course, Mboka going on that amazing run. And then the WTA and ATP finals combined. So there's the finale. Again, ATP finals, besides the Synchraz match, wasn't as... Maybe on its own wouldn't have done as well, but because it was combined it with the women's, the WTA finals were great. And the winner of the best non-slam tournament is, and I have no drum roll, but you're going to just pretend like there is one, the ATP WTA finals. And I think recency bias is also a thing, and that's okay, because I couldn't think of a reason why it shouldn't be that. I thought the same thing. I was like, okay, well, Indian Wells was good. We had some great matches some fun semis and a final. But the ATP, really the WTA finals, that was what carried. I mean, we had some epic matches there. Raducanu winning the tournament, which could have been a fairy tale run. Obviously, we had Swiatek versus Anisimova. We had Sabalenka in there, playing some tough matches. I mean, we had so many good matches. There was no boring... There wasn't really any bad matches besides, the ones with Palini and Keys that were they were injured, right? Everybody else, when they played anybody else, was very competitive and tough. On the ATP finals, obviously we had Fritz versus Alcaraz as one of the good matches in the group stage. We had a couple of matches with Shelton, I think, in FAA, and then Musetti and Demonor had a great match, and then obviously the final being Synchraz. So that was a good run. I think that's the right answer. Again, it's hard to think back, to all the matches that happened in Miami and Indian Wells and Canada. But, yeah, I mean, the voting says 57% was the ATP WTA Finals, 24% was Indian Wells, and then about 10% each, or 9% for Canada and 10% for Miami. So, yeah. But, again, I don't think we missed out on anything. I mean, I'm thinking, was there any other tournaments? I mean, somebody said Rome in the chat. Yeah, maybe Rome. Could could have been on that list. Cincinnati didn't really feel like it was as memorable, besides the final being a retirement. That was not in a good way memorable, right? So there it is. All right, let's go to the Slam of the Year. Now, this is pretty much unanimous. I mean, again, unless you got confused into what the best Slam of the Year means, it doesn't mean what's your favorite Slam. It meant what was the best Slam matchup-wise. But then again, maybe you like some other, maybe your player did well at the US Open or whatever, and that's why you voted. But this one was pretty unanimous, and probably because of one of the matches that happened. So the Grand Slam of the Year that you guys picked, Roland Garros. Roland Garros, obviously, mainly probably because of the Sinner epic, but also the women's final was epic too, and we had some great matches on the women's side. Also, to mention, on the women's side, we had, I think it was like 7 of the 8 players in the quarterfinals were top 10, so it was like super competitive. The only upset really was Bazo getting to the finals, the quarterfinals, and beating Pegula and Andreeva, who, either one of them making the quarters would have been a great result. But on the men's side, obviously the Synchronous final, you had the Rafa ceremony. That was huge. That was definitely, and they just put that on YouTube, I think. That was huge. 65% of the votes went to the French Open, and 24% went to Wimbledon. 8% went to the Australian Open, and only 3% picked the US Open. That's is it strange? Probably not, because Alcaraz was just too good, and there wasn't any really crazy matches at the US Open, at least on the men's side. On the women's side, there was the Pegula versus Sabalenka semi, but other than that, it didn't feel like there was too much craziness. But yeah, and obviously, from the French Open, from the men's point of view, you had Djokovic making the semis. You had Djokovic beating Zverev along the way. It was probably the most competitive Djokovic was in the semis as well of a Slam this year. He was very competitive in the Sinner match, even though he lost in straights. It was like 7-5, 7-5 or something. So it felt like Djokovic was the most competitive at that Slam out of the 4, because obviously he retired in Australia, he was injured in Wimbledon, and in the US Open he was outclassed by Carlos. All right, I would have thought that more votes would go for the French. Yeah, I mean 65% is pretty big chunk. If you've got over 50% of the votes, then and the other 3 have less than that, then yeah. It's interesting because it didn't. I mean, there's definitely some votes that I'm like, I don't know if that's, because it's tricky because some people didn't fill out the form. So if you didn't fill out the form, then you. By the way, there are some that I've had to combine to get a result with the voting of the on the channel. I put the channel votes out as well. So there were some that I had to, because it was too close. I was like, okay, we need to use. That's why we put up the channel votes as a little bit extra. But to make that to make it a little bit better for easier for me to find. So then I'm not just picking who I think it is, if it's 50-50 or whatever. I think we've forgotten about what Carney's the early rounds was at Wimbledon as well. Yeah, well, that's it. That's the issue with. I mean, the same thing happened to the US Open last year, right? If you have tournaments that have a lot of upsets in the first rounds, then you're not going to have the memorable semis in the final. Same thing happened last year at the US Open. Remember, we had all those, Djokovic and Alcaraz losing, and then it just felt like Sinner won the thing without trying. Wimbledon on the women's side, though, we still had Sabalenka and Samova. The final was something. But yeah, we had a lot of upsets on the women's side. Love Cam's Christmas dolls, just saying. They're not dolls, they're creep. You think this is a doll? What kind of a doll has teeth? It's not a doll. They're decoration, Christmas decoration. Yeah, they're gremlins. 3 more members to 1,000. Yeah, we're almost at 1,000 members, which is crazy. Maybe I'll give some members at the end. Okay. Now, comeback player of the year. Now, I don't know why, but I was just racking my brain to come up with enough names. I don't know. Maybe I was getting confused with last year, but give me some. Did I miss anybody that was a comeback player of the year? I mean, for me, maybe comeback player of the year has a different meaning for some people, but I was just thinking coming back from injury. That's what I always, or coming back from from not playing for a time. And even then, I was like, did Cilic come back this year or last year? I just couldn't think. Next year will be a little bit easier because there's a lot of players that haven't played this year that probably come back next year. And Zhang and Draper are the two big ones for me. Next year, if they come back and are successful. But I couldn't think. So Cilic, Bencic, Wawrinka, and Vondrousova. But again, I couldn't think of. Vondi after Wimbledon last year, I checked. Vondi didn't play much. So, and she had a very good season, Vondi. With Stan, though, I couldn't think. I'm like, was he injured last year? I can't remember. No, Osaka played most of last year because I was thinking that too. I'm like, was it Osaka? But Osaka played last year. It was the year before that she didn't play. She came back last year. So I'm like, I was getting confused. FAA, but he wasn't on the list. But Felix, did he play? Maybe I missed out on FAA. I mean, Felix did play a lot. Like, he didn't play a lot. He just didn't do well. He did play, though. He played Basel, Antwerp, Shanghai, Tokyo. And that was all after the US Open. He just didn't, I guess, maybe coming back to form. Again, that's why I'm comeback player for me was coming back from an injury. Could have had a nomination. Well, FAA's been nominated for something else, I think. No, he wasn't. Okay. I didn't know. You know what? FAA was... Where was FAA? Is he not nominated for anything? Holy moly. Honorable mention. Felix Auger-Aliassime for every category on the men's side. I thought he was player of the year. Anyways. He was playing, but he wasn't playing well. Okay. So again, look, you can interpret comeback as coming back into form or coming back from injury. But I went with injury. And I couldn't think of anybody besides these four. Maybe we could have replaced Stan, because I don't think Stan technically came back from anything. Anyways, even if FAA was on this list, there was no way anybody was going to beat this lady, because this lady came back from having a baby, and the fact that at the start of the year, or end of last year, she was playing challenge, like ITF events that nobody remembers, first of all, but it was Bencic. Unanimously, 72% of the votes went to Bencic. It wasn't just the fact that she came back from having a baby, which is already such a hard thing to do anyway. I know a lot of players do it; they make it look easy. But there's a lot of players that come back and struggle after having time off, but also having a baby. So, and you got to remember as well, chat, that coming back, not just coming back physically from having a child, but also emotionally. You've got to leave. You got to go back to work, right? You got to leave your, under 1-year-old or maybe your 1-year-old child at home, and you got to go travel the world and be away from that. I mean, that's a whole another thing that we don't even talk about, because we just watch them play tennis and we forget that they're people. So yeah, Bencic, 100%. Also, her results. I mean, she nearly was in the top 10 by the end of the year. She was winning titles. I think in February she won a title. She did okay at the slams. If there was ever going to be one person to be a comeback player of the year, maybe even for this whole decade, she fits the mold. She is exactly what a comeback player of the year is. Somebody who was not around for a while and then came back and started the year off at 800, and then, or started 12 months ago was 500 of the world, and then is now top 10. I mean, the most obvious, probably the second most obvious category of this list. But again, like I said, Cilic, I think, came back from a knee injury. Wawrinka, I can't remember. I think he might have come back from some on and off injuries last year. And Vondi had injuries at the end of last year as well. So, but no one's even close, because Bencic with 72% of the votes was comeback player of the year. We had
Cilic at 11%. Vondy only got 7%. Maybe people forgot. People forgot that Vondy was out of action last year for a while, and then also Stan got 9%. But again, it was Bencic. That was the right answer. Correct answer is Bencic, if there was ever a correct answer for any category. So yeah, Bencic, comeback player of the year. Can you display the percentage of the votes on the screen? No, because I didn't set that up, and I don't have time to do that right now. But next year, remind me to do that next year. Vondy should have been higher. Yeah, she won a title as well. True, she went the quarters of the US. Yeah, I think Vondy should have been second highest votes. But then again, people maybe don't remember. Comeback player should have been Felix. Again, it wouldn't have. I think Bencic still would have been over Felix. Maybe again next year for comeback player, I've got to, instead of just thinking of players coming back from injury, which is always what or coming back from dropping down the rankings outside the top 100. Again, I don't know, for FAA it's weird because when you think comeback player of the year, he came back into form for sure, but it was really at the end of the year. Like he kind of at the end of the season he sort of came back to the top 10. But again, when I thought comeback, I was thinking, somebody who's been injured and off the tour and then came back this year and really did well. Which this next year, we've got so many players to think of. US Open was when he started the comeback, right? Next year, I mean, injury-wise, we've got so many players to pick from that could potentially be on the list. Zhang, we've got Hurkacz, Dimitrov, Draper. If Runa comes back next year, which I doubt it, but Runa. I mean, there's a lot of players who are going to be coming back from injury next year. Draper's probably the big one. Gil said Felix. You were going to disagree with Gil. Mary, why are you trying to pick fights? Like I said, my interpretation of comeback for this was, and by the way, it's not as serious. But also, I was picking players that were injured or coming back from a layoff. Again, but nothing wrong with picking Felix. If Gil said Felix, that's great. Kyrgios, if he plays, well, yeah, I mean, he's going to have to play a lot. Tatiana Maria, yeah, but did she come back from anything, or was she off the tour last year? The criteria can be different as long as it's internally consistent. Yeah. Again, maybe I should have put FAA instead of Wawrinka if we're going to go by who came back into form. But I mean, again, I don't think nobody would have said. I mean, Bencic, if you combine them, Bencic, I think it was comeback player of the year by a mile. And I don't know what. Again, I don't watch. I haven't been watching. I've been watching. I haven't been watching Stranger Things yet, but Gil only does the men. Yeah, for ATP, yeah, for sure. I just couldn't pick 5 players for ATP. I couldn't 4 players. I couldn't think, so I combined them. So for the men, I mean, yeah, FAO probably would be the correct answer. But for combined, it's hard to pick against Bencic. Unless you're Canadian and you're, or you're just doing a men's, like an ATP comeback award. Usually we do split them up, but I just couldn't think of 4 players. Next year I'll split them up so people don't get upset. By the way, Ons Jabeur also having a baby next year. I don't know if she'll come back next year, but Zhang posing with the runner-up played at the WTA final ceremony will always be iconic. Fair enough. Is Leighton playing doubles with his son? What, today? Is he? I don't know. I haven't been looking. Is he playing? He was last week. He was last week. By the way, chat, you voted for this, so just any complaints, talk amongst yourselves. Is Leighton playing today? I don't think so. Dutchie would have told me. Oh, they get a wild. They should get a wild card to the doubles. Oh, okay. I don't know if Leighton. I think Leighton was just playing for that one tournament just for fun. I don't think he's coming back to play doubles forever. I think he was just playing because it was just like convenient. I don't think Leighton's playing doubles with his son forever. How many votes did we get for these awards total? So, yeah, over 1,000. So combined, yes. So with the YouTube community tab and the form, combined, each category probably got a couple of thousand votes. It's funny because the reason why I do the form is because the form feels like there's a smaller sample size, but I think it's more like, I mean, if you, with YouTube, you can scroll, random people can find it and just click buttons, go, oh, whatever. Whereas the form is, I feel like a lot of you guys get involved with that. So it's more, it feels like it's more, a little bit more for this community, right? You have to go on to, you have to make an effort to vote for it. Whereas on YouTube, you can kind of just, maybe you're randomly scrolling and you see the votes and random people in the world will see it too who don't even come to the streams, right? So people can vote and they don't even follow the channel. So combining but usually it's pretty much the same. It's pretty much the same. So there's only like two categories I think that were like different, which was interesting because again, maybe just different audience or something. I don't know. All right. Next categories. We're going to do Coaches of the Year for the men and the women. So, I'm going to butcher the names, but that's all right. So, this is the WTA Coach of the Year. We had Wim Fizet with his first full year with Swiatek. Remember, before Wimbledon, he was going to get fired by the mob, the masses. And then he won Wimbledon with Swiatek, and no one has questioned him since. So, yeah. Great to see. Well, he's a great coach. I mean, if you look at his resume, he's crazy. Vli Shalvers, I'm sure I pronounced that correctly first try. Anisimova's coach, obviously made 2 Grand Slam finals with her. Dubrov with Sabalenka. Sabalenka was number 1 for the entire year, and they obviously won a lot of the slams. And then people forgetting that Keys won the Australian Open. The way she won the Australian Open, Fran Tangelo definitely deserves a mention. It was hard to pick Coco's coach because she changed coaches. So it's a little bit tricky to kind of, unless somebody's been with a coach for like 9 of the 10 months of the year, I feel like it's a little bit tricky to go with somebody who changes coach mid-year because the results were different with a different coach, but then they're not with them anymore, so it's weird to dominate them. So they are the Coaches of the Year nominations, and the winner by kind of easily too was Anisimova's coach. And how could you argue with that? Besides not winning a slam, that's the only argument you can make that, she didn't win a slam. But making 2 finals of slams, winning a 1,000 titles, right, for the first time ever, being in the top 4, being a top 10 player for the first time. There's so many, like Anisimova this year reached her, like, the potential that she maybe had shown in 2019 when she had an amazing run back then in the French. So, yeah, look, it's very, very hard not to pick the number 1 in the world for this category because Sabalenka had a great season. She won a slam. She made the final of other slams. I mean, had she have won maybe one more slam, Sabalenka would have been the answer, I think. But very, very, very close second for me would have been Sabalenka. Obviously, Fizet doing what he did with Wimbledon and Swiatek, but Swiatek didn't have a great start to the year, so people maybe remember that. Besides the Australian Open, she really didn't do what she does on the clay, and that maybe was what turned people away. And Fran Tangelo had a great Australian Open with Keys, but after that, unfortunately, didn't do as great. But, yeah, I mean, 57% of the votes. Second was Sabalenka with 17. or Dobrov with 17. So, and also, by the way, Sabalenka has other coaches, but I've just put one coach because I can't fit the whole name, everyone's name in. So, yeah. Anisimova, coach of the year. And also, making 2 Grand Slam finals. I mean, incredible, right? All right. Now for the ATP coach. Now, this is a little controversial because it was very close. And it was very... I mean, I don't know if it's a right answer. This is very tough. Very, very tough. Obviously, you got Ferrero and Lopez with Alcaraz. You got Russell with Fritz. You got Shelton with Shelton. And you've got Cahill and Venozzi with Sinner. Very, very close. Now, I can tell you the 2 players in the middle didn't, unfortunately, Shelton and Fritz didn't win. Didn't come close. But, like the whole ATP season was between Alcaraz and Sinner. And the winner, voted by you. And again, it's a little... We can talk about it. Is Cahill and Venozzi with Sinner. And I agree. Because 3 months off the tour and still getting to number 1 for at least a week... And the way that he finished the year, he made the final of every slam. I mean, it's hard not to say that had Sinner played that extra 3 months, he would have been number 1, and then maybe this wouldn't look as wouldn't be as close because you would have been like, well, the number 1, the number 1 in the world, it gets should most of the time has had a really good season, so then the coaches also get praise. But Sinner with Cahill and Venozzi. 48% of the votes and 40% went to Alcaraz and his coaches. So yeah, a ban should make them the player disqualify and the coach too. Well, we're not. This is a positive show, and we're not focusing on negatives. And had Sinner have been banned for longer, maybe he wouldn't have been in any of these categories because he wouldn't have been eligible because of his results. But we're focusing on the positive side, and we're giving play. You voted for it. I don't know why you're coming at me. You voted for it. But yeah, it very... Again, I can see why people voted for Sinner, and obviously having a great end of the year, beating Alcaraz at the end of the year, to top it off, great winning streak on indoor hard courts. He did make... Look, again, ban aside, he made all 4 Grand Slam finals. He could have won 3 of the 4. He was in the very, very close to winning the French Open, of course. And I mean, but then Alcaraz did make 8 finals in a row or something, 9 finals in a row. So I mean, that's also something. But again, I think if Sinner if Sinner was away for 6 months, then it would have been Alcaraz, obviously. But because Sinner he didn't play for 3 months, and he nearly did get to number 1. I think his coaches and I good. Look at this, right? I don't want to get into the ban because we've talked about it to the death and people still are very emotional about it. But the fact that Sinner got banned for 3 months and then he came back and picked up right where he left off. I mean, 3 months it went very quickly. But a lot of players with a 3-month injury or a 3-month not playing for 3 months, to come back and make a final of a French Open and nearly win the whole thing in your second tournament back emotionally what that would have been. Remember, Sinner was banned from going places. He couldn't go to tournaments. He couldn't practice in facilities, right? To come back from that and then just pick straight up and be like, oh yeah, this, and again, maybe you think, oh, because it was only 3 months. But 3 months can be a long time. It's a quarter of the year. And then to come back and just be like, yep, I haven't changed. Nothing's changed. Like, that's incredible. Especially considering Alcaraz in the meantime was winning all the clay matches. And Sinner came back and was like, yeah, but I wasn't here, so that's why you won everything, right? Like, he did beat him in Rome, but Monte Carlo, Barcelona, all those tournaments again. So the coaches deserve some credit. So yeah, I think after this year, the Sinner should have been banned longer should be over. Anybody who's in 2026 talking about Sinner getting banned, You can disagree with all you want, but he did the time, so it's over. And they're not going to go back and change it. Can we review your predictions? Nope. Why would we do that? This isn't a... this isn't... Why would we do that? Why would we review my predictions? What is it thinking? This like some like annual review of my performance of the year? This is not about me. This is about the players. I got nothing to do with this. This is how the players did. This has not got anything to do with me. I get enough shit throughout the year about my predictions, and I get no praise for what I get right. So I'm not dissecting my own prediction. C minus. Shut up. This is not about me. This is about the season of tennis. Nothing to do with my predictions. All right. This isn't a performance review. All right, let's get to the most improved player because this is interesting. This is interesting because on the women's side it was pretty obvious, but on the men's side it was not too obvious. B+, I'll take it. Okay, so WTA most improved, Andreeva got in the top 10. People forget how good Andreeva was at that February, March. Didn't have a great, like when she got in the top 10, it kind of felt like the pressure of her, the pressure of being the player to beat might have just got to her a little bit. And also having not played the WTA finals, I think if she had played that and maybe finished the year off beating one of the top 10 players, it would have been different. But yeah, that start of the year for Andreeva, people forget it, how good it was. Anisimova, we talked about her at length just before. Amazing season. Alexandra got in the top 10 for the first time this year, so really, really good year from her. And Towson also had a very good season, making the final of 1000s and doing well at the slams. But, I mean, this was a no-brainer. It was Anisimova by a mile, who 12 months ago, I don't think anybody was predicting to do... I mean, maybe some of you might have thought, oh, maybe she'll get in the top 10. But I don't think anybody was thinking that she would go from being a very solid player that's very dangerous to being like a contender, like a serious contender at all the slams, a world beater, beating Swiatek 2 out of 3 times, especially after losing in the Wimbledon final. Love, and then came out and beat her twice in a row, and ended up winning that head-to-head this year. Obviously beating Sabalenka. She's got a great record against Sabalenka. But yeah, I mean, Anisimova by a mile, 84% of the votes went to Anisimova. Not even close. Not even close. Andreeva with 10%, and then it was 3% for both Alexandrova and Towson. But yeah, 84% of the votes, not even close. Andreeva was second, and I agree, but Andreeva didn't have a good year. She had a great start to the year, but she didn't have a great year. Anisimova obviously having a solid season throughout, starting with getting a 1000 in February and going on. She also, I think she lost in the 4th round to Sabalenka at the French. So again, did pretty well, the French, considering her draw. And then obviously the finals of the slams. And then finished the year off at the WTA finals, playing really, really well. Like being a lot of people picking her to win, being a very, very popular pick to win. So no brainer with that one. That was easy. All right. Now for the men's side. Now this was not easy. I got to be honest, chat. I don't know what some of you were thinking, and I think some of you forgot. And this is the only one that I look at and I go, no, I do not agree. But that's why it's not about me. This is about you guys and what you voted for. So I'm going to disagree with the majority of it, 50% of you, because 50% of you picked this guy. And it's not that he didn't have a great year and he wasn't improved. It was just that somebody else, I think, deserves, that's not the word. Somebody else should have had this category 1. Anyways, FAA shouldn't have been there because FAA wasn't most improved. He's been improved like that before. I talked about this at length. Felix being in this category, for me, didn't make sense because FAA was not most improved. Comeback player of the year, yes, I can understand. But most improved is somebody who who took their game to another level. That's most improved. And this is my interpretation, and these are the Tennis Talk Awards, and I'm going with that. Musetti, He went from, was he outside the top 10? No, he was around the top 10 last year, and he kind of pushed his way into the top 10. Had a great clay season. People forget. Draper obviously went from, I think, like 15 in the world or somewhere around there and pushed into the top 10. Was top like 5 at one point until he got injured. Pre-Wimbledon, he was on fire. Bublik, I mean, hard to argue that he wasn't one of the most improved for sure, because he went from, I mean, I think he was like pre-French Open, was like outside the top 50, and then shot into the almost in top 10. Had a great season, won titles on all different surfaces, won back-to-back titles on clay. It's a crazy year from Bublik out of nowhere. And then Ben Shelton. I think a lot of people underestimate Shelton, how good he was, because he went from a potential top 10 future player to then, like, as a Shelton fan, I was thinking for sure he'll get there, but I didn't think it would be this year. Semi-finals of Australia. He only lost to, I think, Alcaraz and Sinner at the Slams. Besides the US Open, he lost obviously to injury. But had he not been injured at the end of the year, then maybe Shelton would have put on been a better pick. Obviously won a 1,000 as well. I mean, again, hard to argue that Shelton was the least voted for, and the winner was, as voted by you, was Bublik. Now, the reason why I disagree, and maybe, it's hard, like, going through his accomplishments has kind of just maybe changed my own mind. You know what I don't agree with the fact that half the votes went to Bublik. That's what I'm like, really? Was it that obvious? I didn't think it was that obvious. That it was Bublik. I thought you could make a very strong case for Draper. And I thought the Draper fans obviously are watching the cricket, because you've all checked out of tennis. And now, I mean, before Wimbledon, you all would have unsubscribed if I didn't say Draper. I mean, all the Draper fans just completely disappeared. Where'd you go? Hello? Where are you? Where are the Draper fans? You guys didn't vote. But yeah, so Bublik, 48% of the votes, 18% to Draper, 18% to Musetti. Again, I don't agree. I think Draper was better than Musetti, but again, more improved than Musetti, but okay. And then Shelton with 15%, which I think is criminal. I'm just surprised that Bublik got that many votes. I didn't think it was that obvious. But then again, maybe it was, and I'm giving Draper too much credit. Maybe, you know what? Again, probably like Shelton, had Draper not have been injured, maybe people would have remembered that how good he was at the start of the year and how good he was up until Wimbledon. But Bublik, again, and this is the thing with some of these categories, people don't remember what happened in March because it was so long ago. But they remember what happened in the last couple of weeks and a couple of months. And obviously Bublik in the last, since, what was it, post-French, like the French Open, he beat Draper, makes the quarterfinals. And then from the French Open onwards, Bublik was on fire. But Bublik did finish the year off by losing, I think, to a lucky loser who was 200 in the world. So, I mean, that was, his season was, he was almost top 10, but it was also very volatile at times. He had some very strange losses too. But yeah, look, Bublik, good choice. Again, I think you could have made an argument for Draper. It's hard to, we should do you know what we should do next year? Whoops. You know what we should do? We should do mid-season awards, because I feel like we'd have a different, we need to do a mid-season award next year. Just so, like, once we get past Wimbledon, or maybe after the French Open, we'll do like the mid-season awards, because I think there's a lot of things that get missed from the start of the year just because we don't remember. And that's fine. Like, I don't remember stuff too. I'm like, oh yeah, February. Yeah, that happened. But I think like we should do mid-season awards, because a lot of players that did really well at the start of the year deserve credit, and they don't get credit because they disappear. Draper and Andreeva are two of the biggest ones. And then a lot of players that did really bad at the start of the year, nobody remembers, because, and it would be really fun to like see who was like, we might do that next year. Let me remember that. We might do a mid-season award next year, just to give some credit to the players at the start of the year, because they might drop off. I agree that most improved was Draper. He worked really hard. Bublik is a natural and decided to try this year. That's all. Yeah. Look, again, I'm not surprised Bublik won. I don't think that's don't get that confused. I think Draper should have had more votes. Now, should he have won? Maybe not, because he wasn't around enough, right? He didn't play enough at the end of the year, which was important. You know, Wimbledon and the US Open, he didn't play at the end of the year finals, right? So Bublik definitely, especially when you consider like where he was ranked compared to these guys, you know, he was ranked further away, so he had a bigger jump in the ranking. But I just, 50% of the votes, I'm like, was it really that obvious? I'm confused. I didn't think it was that obvious. I thought a lot more people would have picked Draper. Considering he was like, I think next year coming back, I think a lot of people are going to think that Draper can consistently push Alcaraz and Sinner, you know? And he was doing that up until he got injured, right? He was, you know, Draper got hurt, so that didn't help. Yeah, I think the fact that he didn't play enough at the end of the year. But again, yeah, look, Bublik was, if we're saying Anisimova was on the women's side, Bublik on the men's side is definitely, if there's some categories, right, you got to think, okay, well, what was the ranking at the start of the year to compare to the end of the year? Bublik ticks the box. One of the biggest ranking jumps of the year. Did he win any titles? Yes, he did. He won, 500 in Halle. He won clay court titles, which was unheard of. You know, he beat Sinner, which I think a lot of people are bringing up as well. You know, but then again, I don't like. I think Draper deserved more votes. The fact that Draper and Musetti on the same level when voting wise, I'm like, nah, that's not right. Because Draper had a more improved season than Musetti, I think. I think the slam run that Draper missed, that was the thing. He didn't have a slam run. Had he had a better slam run, maybe, and had he played the slams, maybe that would have been different. But talking about Bublik just reminded me that my friend at tennis pulled off an underarm serve the other day. Bublik charismatic. Oh yeah, this is nothing to say that Bublik isn't a great player and a lot of fun. I'm hoping next year Bublik can at least maintain his ranking, because I don't want to see Bublik drop off. And it was just like, oh, what a great year. I don't think he'll go up another level into the top 5, but I think if Bublik's like in the top 20 by the end of next year, I think that would be pretty awesome still. That means he would have had some good runs. Musetti was fantastic on clay. He was. You're right. Musetti was great on clay. But he didn't win a title. I think that's the big thing with Musetti is like he didn't win a title. And I know he made the semis of the ATP finals. Did he know? Did he make the semis? God, I should remember this. Yeah, and he lost. But yeah, I don't know. I think, again, maybe we've got to do a mid-season award. He didn't. What am I thinking? Who am I? Oh, no, because he lost to Alcaraz to lose. Yeah, sorry. He lost to Alcaraz to lose. It was FAA and Demonor. I'm getting confused. It was supposed to be Musetti, I think, but Demonor. Musetti and Demonor. Demon took his spot. Yeah. Okay, now, I'm been away for 2 weeks and bleh. But yeah, so, it'd be interesting to see how Bublik maintains next year. But again, I think Draper deserved more votes. And the Draper fans just didn't. You guys just went. I don't know what. You're not even here. He got injured and you ran away. You stopped watching. All right, now next category. We've got a bit of a new spin on this category because this is one of the most. I don't even know what to call this category. I like the name that I've called it this year because it's been called Young Player of the Year, Newcomer of the Year, Rookie of the Year. And I don't think any of those names really. Newcomer of the Year is the generic term that the ATP and WTA use, and that's sort of the normal way of saying it. But I think that's such a boring name. I just don't like that name. So this year we're calling it the Rising Star Award, and that because Rookie of the Year was what we called it last year, and a lot of people would mention that. Well, this person technically isn't a rookie. Okay, so it was annoying, so I changed the name. Rising Star, breakout. Yeah, so it's kind of like a combination of breakout star, a breakout player, or breakthrough, but then breakthrough can also be most improved, right? So I think Rising Star kind of somebody who we 12 months ago wasn't on our radar. That's really the what this category is meant to be. That's what newcomer of the year, right? Newcomer is somebody who we didn't know last year and now is new and now is here, right? And there's a lot of people that obviously we could put on this list, but a lot of this is by the way, on the women's side, very competitive. And all these ladies had a great run at some point or at multiple points, right? So we have Alexandra Eala. Had a great run in Miami, had a great run on the grass, played a lot of tennis. And if you've been a part of this channel, you know because we watched it. Boiseau had a great French Open. I don't think she did much after that, but she had a great French Open. Obviously, Maya Joint having won, I think she won 2 titles on 2 different surfaces, clay and grass, just before the Grand Slams as well. Didn't have a great run at the Slams, but maybe that's next year. And then Mboko, not only did she win Canada, she won a title at the end of the year in Hong Kong, but she also won, I think 5 titles to start the year. She won 5 out of 6 titles on the ITF WTA Challenger circuit. I mean, that doesn't get recognized at all because people don't watch those events or people don't remember, but I'm telling you, and that's why she won. I mean, I'm not even getting to it. We're just getting straight to it. She won. I mean, that wasn't even close. She won with 53% of the votes, and I totally agree. Mboko was the pick because 12 months ago, Mboko was outside the top 300. Nobody outside of Canada probably. I mean, maybe some people last year were like, "Oh, there's a player from Canada who's 18 in the world and stuff," but so 18 years old and is going to be something. But she went from. I mean, she looks like she could be top 10 next year. I mean, she might be most improved next year, and then she might be player of the year in 3 years. She is so dangerous. But she won that 1,000 title, was great. She obviously won the end of the year in Hong Kong as well, which is great. She beat multiple big names. She also had a pretty good run at the Slams, only losing really, except for the US. I think at the French and maybe Wimbledon, she came through the qualies and she lost to I think she lost to Coco and Raducanu at Wimbledon and the French. So not bad results. Maybe I'm remembering that wrong. Either way, had a great, decent run at Slams considering, as a qualifier, she wasn't supposed to do much. Obviously, Joint, as a personal favorite for mine, she only got 9% of the votes, but, 53% of people votes went to Mboko. Boiseau, hard to say outside the French what she did, but she got only 4% of the votes. And then Eala got 32% of the votes, which is very impressive. But I think Mboko, Joint, and Eala, and obviously there's other young players you can chuck in there as well, but those 3 players, Jovic was, by the way, honorable mention for Jovic because she won a 500. The problem with that is she won a 500 when nobody was watching, and unfortunately, when you win when nobody's watching, if you win a tournament straight after a Grand Slam when everybody's checked out, then nobody remembers, unfortunately. But she should be an honorable mention. She would have been on this list had Boiseau not done the French Open run. So, honorable mention for Jovic because, she deserved to be on this list. But will she have beaten Mboko? Probably not. But yeah, Mboko, crazy. And like I said, next year she might go from now, she's top 20? She might go into the top 10 next year, and then who knows? Maybe she'll be the Nissimova of next year. All right, let's go to the men's side of things because this was weird. This was an interesting category because the reason why we renamed it, I renamed it is because Vachereau is not a rookie. He's 26. So calling him a rookie felt weird. So Rising Star made a lot more sense because obviously he went from, even 3 months ago. At the US Open, nobody knew who this guy was. Or at least not many people. Menchik obviously won Miami. Didn't have a great slam run, which is probably the only, maybe the biggest downside of. We expected so much from him at the slams, but just couldn't break through at this year anyway. Vachereau obviously won Shanghai and had a decent run at the end of the year as well. I think he pushed Fritz and he did okay at Paris. Fonseca started the year off playing challenges and went on to. I think he made the second round of every slam. Also, at the start of the year, in the Australian Open, he went through the qualies, made the second round, had a great 5-setter. He won a 500 at the end of the year as well, which I think was probably the reason he a lot of people remember more of what he did because he finished the year off strong. And Tien, who also had a great start to the year at the Australian Open. I think he had maybe more top 10 wins than anybody else in this list. He just knows how to beat top 10 guys. This was pretty close. Not as close. I mean, it was closer than the women's side. And the winner was Fonseca. Fonseca with 43% of the votes. Over Tien with 28%. So, yeah, I think winning the title definitely made a difference. I think if Tien had won a title and Fonseca had not won 2 titles, I think a lot of people would have said, well, how does Fonseca win if Tien has won titles? But 500 event and a 250 on clay, plus, like I said, multiple wins at slams, making the second round, I think, of every slam minimum. Also beating Hurkacz on grass, which I think a lot of people don't remember or don't rate, which is wild because Hurkacz is a Wimbledon semi-finalist and very dangerous on grass. But yeah, so Fonseca was the winner. Menchik got the least amount of votes. Again, I think it's because it's that everyone just forgets what happens in March. Again, we're going to do mid-season awards because if we do, Menchik deserves more credit for what he did at the start of the year than what he gets by the end of the year. And Vachereau, he got 14% of the votes, which is solid. I think he is probably third because of the like a lot of people remember that it's not about what happened in the last 2 months, it's about what happened in the year. And Tien and Fonseca were definitely the 2 rising stars. Did I miss anybody though? On the men's side, I feel like we're missing people. Did I miss anybody else? Any other rising stars? On the women's side as well? I mean, on the women's side, I don't think we missed anybody. Except for Jovic. Tien won Mets. Oh, sorry, he did win Mets. My bad. He won Mets at the very end. God, why do we have tournaments at the end of the year? After Paris, I'm like, ATP Finals. He did win Mets, yes. I can't wait to get Cam to start full-time tennis again. I'm laid up. Broke my foot in 2 places. Oh, no, Robin. That sucks. Well, we'll be back throughout February. Oh, sorry, I'm coming back earlier than that. Throughout December. Feast? Yeah, maybe Feast. But, yeah, again, I think Feast probably had that first half of the year. We would have had him on the list. Come back after the Australian Open. Can you imagine? All right. Caboli? Maybe Caboli. Yeah, Caboli could have been on the list. Going to the Adelaide International? Nice. Enjoy. All right. Now, this is interesting. The next category is Rivalry of the Year. And, I mean, this is... I mean, we really should start with the men's side of things because it's not even close. So that's what we'll do. All right, Rivalry of the Year for the men. I wonder what it could be. Oh, I don't even know. Djokovic, Alcaraz, let's talk about it. For 5 seconds. Djokovic versus Alcaraz. I mean, again, because February, as January was so far away, so long ago. Obviously, they had a great Australian Open match, and then Alcaraz did beat Djokovic a couple of times after that. Fritz Zverev wasn't as interesting as last year. Last year they played like 5 times, and it was very interesting. This year they played a couple times, but put it on the list anyway. Draper Alcaraz, again, doesn't get any credit because at the start of the year we all forgot how good Draper was and how competitive. I mean, he had to retire at the Australian Open against Alcaraz, which was a shame because he played so many 5-setters. He beats him in Indian Wells, and then he also pushed him in Rome, I think it was, or Monte Carlo, one of the 2 clay court events. So Draper against Alcaraz was and I'm so excited to see that next year. But with 94% of the votes, this was one of the most one-sided. I mean, it was Sincaraz, obviously. Obviously. 94% of the votes. Second was Fritz Zverev, and I think that was just because people didn't like Sinkeraz. I think they were like it was crazy. Or you like Fritz and Zverev. I mean, 3% of the votes was second place. Sinkeraz with 94%. I mean, not even close. And there's no way you could even argue that it wasn't the rivalry of the year because French Open final, Wimbledon final, US Open final, ATP finals final, Rome final, Six Kings Slam. They played every time they play in the final against each other. I mean, I think it was only Paris where they didn't play in the final when they played the same event. I think. I'm pretty sure. Cincinnati final. Right? I'm pretty sure that was the only tournament. And by the way, don't forget that had they have played the Davis Cup, they would have played in the final. If the teams had kept winning. And you would have thought that with Sinner and Alcaraz in the final, Spain and Italy, if they make the final without them, they're going to make the final with them. So we could have had a Sinkeraz final at the Davis Cup as well, and their countries represented without them in the final. So even that could have happened. So yeah. So
for everything come.
No worries. Thank you, Robin, for the $2. Appreciate it. By the way, thank you, Yugoslav, for the 13 months. Also, thank you, Andre, for the 11 months as well. So thank you for that. So yeah, so like no, not even close. Not even close. All right, now let's have a look at the WTA rivalry of the year because this was a little less obvious, maybe. I mean, it was definitely closer. Paolini Gauff, I think they played, I want to say 4 times. And Paolini won 3 out of the 4, which was pretty impressive. Sabalenka Rybakina obviously had a great rivalry throughout the year, had some really good matches, obviously being Berlin was one of the big ones, right? 5 times. I don't know how many times. I think they might have played, I want to say they played 4 times as well. But Sabalenka versus Rybakina. Swiatek versus Anisimova. They played 3 times, and it was a great trilogy. Obviously, the Wimbledon final was the Swiatek win. The comeback win at the US Open was Anisimova, and then Swiatek and Anisimova won the distance in the final match at the WTA Finals. Great trilogy of matches. And then Pegula Sabalenka, which was a very high-quality matchup for me. And that was obviously probably one of the best, most high-quality matches you'll see, and the best hitting you'll see is the semifinals of the US. Between those two. Obviously, Anisimova Sabalenka should have been on the list, but I just didn't want to I don't want to just say Sabalenka for everything. Like, that's the thing, right? Sabalenka, I mean, looking at the votes, it would have been Sabalenka Anisimova, Sabalenka Rybakina, Swiatek Anisimova, Sabalenka Pegula. Like, I want to give Paolini Gauff some credit, because they deserve to be on this list. You could have put Sabalenka Gauff, but they played once. Swiatek Sabalenka, by the way, who won this last year, only played once this year, which is weird. 1 and 2 player in the world, they only played once. A lot of rivalries. The WTA is stacked. I mean, this is what's so good, right? Is that there's so many rivalries. On the men's side, it's like Sinkeraz, forget the rest. This is a very competitive category. I mean, you could put Andreeva against Swiatek or Andreeva against Sabalenka. That was a great rivalry, you know? Also, I think Sabalenka and Anisimova only played a couple of times. 3 times maybe, but they did play the slam. Oh, no, they played 4 times. Yeah. Again, that's honorable mention. But would it have beaten this? I don't know. Would it have been bigger than this rivalry? I don't know. The winner only by 5% was Swiatek and Anisimova, and I agree because I think that trilogy, that nice 3 matches where it was the Wimbledon final, the US Open quarterfinals, and the WTA finals with the stakes. Every match they played, the 3 of them were high stakes. One was a Grand Slam final, one was a Grand Slam quarterfinal, and one was to qualify for the WTA finals semifinals, right? It was a sudden death match. So I agree. Obviously, you can make an argument for a lot more, but the other ones as well, because Sabalenka and Rybakina had some great matches, and they played a lot too. They played a lot. But I like that nice trilogy. We had Swiatek win the first one, Anisimova coming back and winning the second one, both in straight sets, those matches, and then the final match was a great little trilogy. And And I agree. And I think they played some very. I mean, the Wimbledon final obviously was not a great match from Anisimova, but it was stunning, like a ridiculous scoreline. And then the turnaround, that 3-match story is amazing. Sabalenka Rybakina, I think, played the most out of everybody. I think they played more times out of everybody on this list. They played, I think, 5 times. 3-2, I think, was Sabalenka. I think that was it. I think they played 5. So, yeah. But, yeah, that was it was very competitive. 40% of the votes went to Anisimova Swiatek. 35% went to Sabalenka Rybakina. So, very, very close. But, again, if we're picking apart where's this, where's that, I mean, it just shows how I should get. They should ask me to promote the WTA for I should be asking for a fee at this point. Did they play 5 times? Pegula and Paolini and Gauff. Okay, but yeah, WTA. I mean, the fact that we can pick probably 10 rivalries that were amazing this year. We could pick. There's a lot of good rivalries on the men's side. It's like hard to pick second. Who's the second best rival on the men's side? No idea, because nobody can compete against the 2 big dogs at the moment. But on the women's side, there are at least 7 rivalries that we could choose, and you'd all be totally fair to say. Nice trilogy, great matches, yeah. Tim Medvedev, I mean, yeah, they played some good matches, yeah. Sabalenka played so many people because she kept so dang far in every tournament. Well, that's true. Nole versus Sinkeraz. But that wasn't competitive. I mean, how many matches did Djokovic win against Sinkeraz? 1 out of 7? Like, it's not a rivalry. If I mean, yeah, Alcaraz dominates that rivalry, but I don't think Djokovic played after the Australian Open. Djokovic didn't play 1 competitive match against Sinkeraz from start to finish. Like the Australian Open when he beat Alcaraz was the highlight of him versus them, because he lost to Sinner, he lost to Alcaraz. He barely won a set after that against those guys. So Zverev Sinner, yeah, maybe Zverev Sinner, but we're only talking about that because of Vienna. But after Vienna, remember what happened in Paris? He got smoked. He beat Alcaraz injured. I'm not over it. Again, mid-season maybe. Again, I'm really keen to do this. We'll do a mid-season award just because I want to start giving credit to the players that did well in the start of the year, where we forget what they did. Because it's a long season. By the time we get to November, all the players that did really well at the start of the year get forgotten because we just don't remember because there's so much to keep in our brain. So I think we should do like a half year award. Because at the start of the year, there's a lot of players that played really, really well and deserve credit. And it'll be really interesting also to compare what happens at the start of the year in the first 6 months or the first 5 months and then the end of the year. So we might do that just to see who actually, because then that'll really inform us who did really well. Who kept it up. Who kept going. Okay. Next, we go into the matches. We get to the matches of this year, and we've got the upset match, we've got the non-Grand Slam match, we've got the Grand Slam match, and then we've got Player of the Year. Four categories to go. No, we've got plenty more categories. What are we talking about? 4. We've got 6 awards more to go to give out. All right, let's get to these matches, and remember, this was hard. These are not easy. Obviously there's one match on the for the Slam match of the year, but everything else is very, very tricky. You could very, very much make an argument for any of this. So, upset of the year for the ladies. Andreeva defeating Sabalenka. Again, people forget. Going into that match, that final, Sabalenka was the favorite. Sabalenka was supposed to win. Sabalenka. And Andreeva came in there and hadn't really done well against Sabalenka in the past. I mean, she beat her at the French when Sabalenka was sick, but Andreeva deserves an award for the first half of the year. Her and Draper deserved a first half of the year award. Eala defeating Swiatek, one of Swiatek's worst losses in a long time. And obviously Eala having a great run, not just beating Swiatek, beating a lot of players, but that was the highlight for the Eala Miami run. Again, people forget that Boiseau defeated not just Andreeva, but she also beat Pegula. But beating Andreeva at that point, I think, Andreeva was such a dangerous player and very scary. And she was the only player, Boiseau, to get to the quarters that wasn't in the top 10. So stopping Andreeva when all the top 10 players did well at the French, most of them. And then Yastremska beating Gauff at Wimbledon, which was one of many matches where the carnage was crazy. Did I miss anything else? I feel like this is a category you could put in 10 matches, but I'm trying to make it. I'm trying to remember did I miss anything else? Mboko, winning matches in Canada. Maybe she beat someone there, or did I miss it? At US Open, I don't think there was that many massive upsets. Most of the top 10 beat each other. Did I miss anything else? Yastremska with Gauff wasn't even that big. Yeah, but that's it. I mean, that was Yastremska was one ranking spot away from being seeded. So I mean, she was the hardest. That was just an unlucky draw. Eala defeating Keys. Yeah, you could put like Eala defeating a lot of players that week, right? Zara Zua beating Keys. Okay. And Boko beating Rabakina. Yeah. See, there's a lot. I mean, that's the thing. There's probably some that I completely missed. But I guess the good thing about this is that there wasn't as many upsets on the women's side as there usually is. Ones that surprised us, right? Because an upset is something that we didn't see coming. Some of these, I mean, Yastremska, I picked Yastremska to beat Gauff. But remember, Gauff was coming off winning the French and hadn't played until Wimbledon, and she was coming in with a win streak and coming in with confidence, and then all of a sudden she got lost in the first round. It was like, what the hell happened? So I think, again, at that time, Coco was on fire, and everybody, a very tough matchup, but I think a lot of people were probably surprised that Coco lost at that point. But, Swiatek on clay. I mean, Swiatek lost on clay to a couple of players too that maybe were surprising at the time. But, you all got it. You all picked, straight sets win in the quarterfinals of Miami, and it was Eala beating Swiatek, not even close. 57% of the votes, 58% of the votes. Second was Boiseau beating Andreeva at the French, which I think was probably the biggest upset of the Grand Slams, I think. I'm going with that. Not many people picked Yastremska Gauff because I don't think it was as big of an upset at all as the others. And then also Andreeva Sabalenka, I don't think people remembered how going into that match, how much Sabalenka was favored and how Andreeva had a lot of things to do. She just beat Swiatek. She had to back it up. Beating Swiatek and Sabalenka back to back is super tough. Ask Anisimova, right? She's done it. She tried to do it twice and she couldn't do it. So, she's done it 3 times, right? And Anisimova tried to do it. She can't beat them back to back. Andreeva did it like it was easy. So, yeah. But Eala beating Swiatek was probably Swiatek's, by ranking, worst loss of her career, or one of the worst losses in recent times of her career. Also, Eala, just like Andreeva, she was coming off beating Keys, beating Ostapenko, and then all of a sudden she had to go and beat Swiatek, who was like another level above, and she did in straight sets. It wasn't even close. So I think that one was the right call. If there was there's no right answers. All right, now this was hard. This was very tough. Upset of the year for the men. No obvious pick, which was weird. It was almost like a 25% split. Goffin against Alcaraz in Miami. I think a lot of people forgot that one, or maybe remembered it because I think by ranking it was the biggest, besides maybe Vachereau, but Goffin beating Alcaraz at Wimbledon in Miami was the biggest rankings, like the biggest difference between ranking, I think, between two guys. I think Goffin was way off the rankings, and then Alcaraz obviously was on fire. Was up the top, maybe not on fire, but up the top. Bublik defeating Sinner at Halle. considering that Sinner went on to win Wimbledon, and also Sinner had just made the French Open final, Bublik had done well in Roland Garros, but he wasn't quite on fire like he was towards the end of the year. Vachereau defeating Djokovic. I think a lot of people maybe didn't pick this one because it was the Djokovic fans didn't pick Djokovic for this one because they don't want to be reminded of it. But Djokovic, he wasn't himself in that tournament. Like a lot of players weren't themselves, right? A lot of players were very injured. You know, a lot of players were injured. A lot of people, the conditions were brutal. And Vachereau was fitter than them. And then Norrie defeating Alcaraz at the end of the year in Paris, which was one of Alcaraz. I think Alcaraz said that it was his worst match of the year by a long shot. He played terrible. But Norrie also makes you play bad. You know, you got to give Norrie the credit for the play for making Alcaraz play the way he did. I mean, it was shocking from Alcaraz. But other than that, there wasn't that many upsets this year, which was really interesting. Like major upsets. Like these are the upsets that like everybody can remember. But like anything else outside of this wasn't really an upset. At the slams, there's no slam upset. I mean, how crazy is that? There's no upset. I couldn't pick an upset at the slam. There was no upsets at the slams. It was Sinner and Alcaraz, and then, I mean, there was no upset. You could put maybe mentioning in Miami, but I gave him Fairytale Run of the Year, so he got voted for that anyway. The winner of this, by the way, 33% of the votes. So slight majority of the votes, and you could argue this amongst yourselves. Bublik defeating Sinner got 33% of the votes. Second was Vachereau defeating Djokovic with 23%. 22% of the votes went to Goffin, and 21% of the votes went to Alcaraz. So it was Bublik beating Sinner, and then after that, it was pretty much an even split. But I don't think Sinner fans would have picked this. Like, why? Like, if you think that, like, the Sinner fans just voted for this, why would they vote for an upset? Like, they don't want to be reminded of this terrible moment of his season. So I don't think the Sinner fans voted for Bublik beating him. They don't want to be reminded by that. I'm a Sinner fan. I didn't pick this. Yeah, you wouldn't pick the match that you don't want your player to have upset of the year. That's not a good thing. Like, oh yeah, by the way, this match you lost. You had the worst loss. You know, that's what upset of the year is. It's the biggest loss of the year. I think Vachereau Djokovic maybe should have been a little bit closer or a little bit more obviously second because of the rankings. And also, I think going into that match, a lot of people, including myself, gave Vachereau no chance. I thought he beat Rune, great, but Djokovic is not. But then he beat Djokovic in straight sets, 4-4 or 3-4. I mean, it wasn't even close. Djokovic was out of it for the again, but maybe Shanghai was a little bit brutal for everybody. But Bublik beating Sinner, like I said, Bublik at the time coming off, wasn't playing well. He just played well at the French unexpectedly, but before that, he was a no-show. And then defeated Sinner, who was, you know, by far Sinner's worst result of the year, right? He'd made the final of every other event except for this one, I think. I can't remember. Did he make the final? No. And he retired in Shanghai. But other than the Shanghai retirement, and because Griekspoor beating Sinner doesn't count as an upset because he didn't beat him, technically. But yeah, Bublik beating Sinner. I mean, it was Sinner's worst loss by a mile, but it was, a lot of people said it was the worst loss of the year. But that was a tough one. Because you could have easily made an argument for the Alcaraz matches, especially Alcaraz Norrie. I feel like that came out of that was such a random ass match that, like, all of a sudden, like, we're going, Sinkeras final in Paris again. All right, Sinkeras final, and then Norrie's like, no, I'm gonna beat this guy. I mean, I don't know if the odds, like, upset. Well, let me look at the odds. Let me see if I can find the odds, because the odds will show technically what's the biggest upset, right? Sorry, what the biggest upset is, right? Because upset by ranking, by odds, is really what the upset comes from, right? It comes from betting. Or it counts. So Alcaraz losing to Norrie. Alcaraz was a heavy favorite. But Goffin was a bigger underdog in Miami. So that was interesting. Vachereau beating Djokovic. Not as big of an underdog as Goffin. So, Chad, I think you all made a mistake. It should have been Goffin. And that was third. And then Alcaraz losing to Bublik. Yeah. By the way, Bublik beating Sinner was just as surprising, according to the betting, as Vachereau beating Djokovic. Whereas Goffin beating Alcaraz was the thing that nobody thought was coming. Yeah, maybe it should have been Goffin. Interesting. On the women's side, let me check the ladies' side. Let me see what the upset by the upset of the year was for that. So Boiseau beating Andreeva was a pretty big upset. One of the big upsets. Sabalenka losing to Andreeva in Indian Wells. Okay. Not as big of an upset as that. And then Eala beating Swiatek. I think that was out of nowhere. That was crazy. Yeah. Not as big as Goffin beating Alcaraz, but... And then Yastremska beating Gauff was pretty much on par with Andreeva Boiseau. So yeah, Eala beating Swiatek was the biggest upset of the four. But yeah, Goffin and Norrie beating Alcaraz were bigger upsets according to the betting. So yeah, interesting. But again, there's no right answers. There are no right, and it's probably it was such a weird year because there wasn't any upsets at the Slams. Chat, what was the biggest upset on the men's side at the Slams? What was the biggest upset on the ATP? Because Sinner lost to Djokovic. Sorry, Sinner lost to Alcaraz. Only Alcaraz. Alcaraz lost to Sinner and Djokovic. Djokovic only lost to Zverev with a retirement and then lost to Sinner and Alcaraz. So those three guys, none of them had an upset. Right? Zverev losing earlier to Slam could have been an upset, but when? Tien beating Medvedev? Yeah, maybe. Because then you've got to go to like the next level. Because those three guys, when they lose at a Slam, it's in like next year it'll be even more of an upset because they didn't have one this year. Like Sinner and Alcaraz losing next year at a Slam would be not to each other. I mean, even Djokovic beating one of them might be considered an upset next year. So yeah, Zverev made the final of the Australian Open, so that's definitely not upset. He lost to Sinner. He lost in the first round of Wimbledon, Zverev. Maybe that should have been one of the Grand Slam upsets. He lost to Rinderknecht Nesh in 5. So maybe that should have been upset of the year. But then would that have even come close to... That didn't feel on... Zverev on grass in the first round. I don't think that feels like an upset. So yeah. There's a lot of matches. I mean, Tien beating Medvedev at the time felt like it was a huge upset. But then the way Medvedev's season went after that, it kind of felt like, oh, well, maybe he caught Medvedev on the decline. And Tien went up, right? I mean, Tien got better and better. It's kind of like saying, like Rublev beating, Fonseca beating Rublev, right? Similar thing. It's like, well, we all thought, it was the start of Fonseca and Tien both rising, but it was also the decline of that generation of those two guys in particular. So yeah, at the time it felt like an upset, but it was biggest upset would have been, it was Dimitrov up 2-6 to love. That would have been upset of the year. Had that have happened, it would have been upset of the year. Anyways, very tricky category to pick, but not as tricky as this one. I struggled to find matches to pick. This was hard. Non-Grand Slam match of the year. And it was there were some epic matches at the Slams, but outside of the Slams, very, very tricky category, this one. At least for me to nominate people, because I don't think there wasn't many epics on the men's side outside of the Slams. From memory. But we're going to start with the ladies. So, Andreeva versus Sabalenka. Indian Wells, final. Sabalenka was up a set, and then Andreeva came back to win. Joint Eala. That final set tiebreak. Championship points. Insane. I don't think we've ever had a 250 event in this category. That was we watched that match. It was intense. Pegula versus Sabalenka at Wuhan, when Pegula came back from 5-1, 5-2 down in the third. Came back to win, finally beating Sabalenka for the first time in a long time. And then Sabalenka and Anisimova, which was a very competitive trilogy. Was it trilogy? No. They played like 4 times already this year. But that was one of the big blockbuster high-profile matches to end the year. But this is an event very, very close. You know, everybody had there was no obvious pick. Maybe it's because we remember it because it just happened. But Sabalenka and Anisimova, I think out of the matches as well, maybe it had the highest stakes because it was a semi-final of the WTA finals. I think honorable mention should go to Joint Eala. That is such a tough lineup of players to have to put up. Like
this whole year, Goffin only had 5 top 50 victories. One of those was Alcaraz, one was Sonico, one was Muller, and 2 B.S. Shelton.
Hey, thank you for the 5, and thank you for that. But yeah, then maybe that should have been Goffin should have been the answer. Thank you, Ron, for the 5. But yeah, so it's such a tough category. You've got to go up against like top 10 player clashes. I think Joint Eala, for me, it was a fun stream. Oh, it was insane. It was insane. But yeah, Sabalenka and Anisimova. You could say Andreeva Sabalenka, Indian Wells was so long ago that everybody forgot. I think that's why that one didn't get as many votes. But 31% of the votes went to Sabalenka and Anisimova. 23% went to Pegula, and 23% went to Joint Eala, and then 21% went to Andreeva and Sabalenka. So, again, just like previous votes, one was slightly more obvious, but the other 3 were very close. And I love that. I love that, like, not just on the WTA, because on the ATP it was similar. Spoilers. But yeah, it was great to see that there was no obvious, like, oh, well, that was the best match because every other match sucked. We'll talk about that later, because that's what happened with some other categories. But yeah, that's awesome to see that it wasn't easy to pick the best match of the year because there was so many. All right, let's go to the non-Grand Slam match of the year for the men, which, again, not obvious. A lot of people, very even split between the 4 matches, so I must be doing something right. Draper versus Alcaraz and Indian Wells, where Draper lost the second set 6-love and still won anyway. Alcaraz versus Fils in Monte Carlo. I rewatched the highlights. Highlights are amazing. I looked at the stats. Stats say it was crap, but that match was intense. I mean, if you remember that, yeah. Sinner versus Zverev in Vienna, and Alcaraz versus Fritz in ATP finals. Ruud versus Draper could have been on that list. There's a lot of matches that could have been on that list. Alcaraz versus Fils was really good, yeah. Another one should have been on this list. Demonor versus Fonseca, Miami. The atmosphere and the madness of that match, we all forgot, but it was crazy. Remember Miami, Fonseca in Miami was insane. Remember Tien versus Fonseca in Miami, and then, I mean, that, again, should have been on that list. But these are the 5, and these are the 4. And again, maybe it's because it was the 2 biggest names on this list competing, and it was a final with a 3-set final. Sinner versus Zverev. Sinner versus Zverev in Vienna was the one. It's weird, though, because that didn't... For me, I don't know. It didn't feel... Maybe it's because Sinner didn't get tested by anybody else. And Zverev was the highest ranked... Like, it was the highest ranked match of the bunch. Disagree? Yeah, see, that's why I'm like... It was a tricky one because there was, unfortunately, outside of the Grand Slams, because everybody remembers the finals of Slams, nothing came close to that. So it was very hard to pick non-Grand Slam match of the year or pick players to be, like, pick matches because nothing came close to the Grand Slam finals we watched this year. Draper Alcaraz, well, that was a very strange match, up and down. Fils Alcaraz, I rewatched bits of that, and that was very underrated. I think Fils Alcaraz deserved a lot more in Monte Carlo. Even Musetti, Musetti against Alcaraz, but the first set, right? Wimbledon final. Washington final, yeah. What was the final between De Minaur and Fokina? That could have been on there. Was it Acapulco? That should have been on there. It was hard, though, because it just didn't... There was no standout. There was a lot of good matches, but there weren't any great matches. It didn't feel like there was great matches. Like, that's... You know what I mean? Like, it didn't... Like... Again, because on the women's side, it was similar, right? Because we're comparing everything to Grand Slams. That's why I think next year, maybe we'll just do Match of the Year. Non-Grand Slam Match of the Year, it feels like it sounds like a runner-up prize. You know, like, doesn't feel like, you win non-Grand Slam Match of the Year. Great, but, Match of the Year, quality, Grand Slams are where it's at. I think we need to combine them. Just do Match of the Year. Non-Grand Slam Match of the Year, I don't feel like I don't know. It never compares to the Match of the Year on the Slams. The women's side of things is a little different. Maybe best of three is different, but yeah. Davis Cup count? Yeah, Davis Cup would have counted, but Davis Cup didn't. I mean, what would you put from the Davis Cup? Cavalli versus Munar. Yeah, but that was because it happened last week and everybody remembers. So yeah. Very tricky. And I mean, I'm not going to. It's not that hard, but trying to figure out. Okay, I got to pick 4 matches that I think are, that I think are worthy of. And I don't just pick ones I like. I try and think of it like I get your feedback. Remember at the end of the year, I'm asking like, give me some feedback. What do you think of this? Because I can't give you 10 options because then it's just going to be a shit show. I got to narrow it down to 4. To make it easy for voting. Otherwise, if you have 10 options, this is going to be too much. Cavalli should be rising star. Yeah, I mean, he should be. He could have been on that list for sure. Cavalli Bergs. Oh, at the Davis Cup. Yeah, I mean, maybe could have been on that list. Maybe. Again, I feel like non-Grand Slam Match of the Year next year. We might do it in the mid-year, but we won't do it at the end of the year because I don't know. I don't feel like there's. I don't think any time in this for this whole 7 times we've been doing this, we've had one match of the year that's been in the semis. Besides, Swiatek, Sabalenka Madrid final a couple of years ago. That was the only one that's like that was one of the greatest matches, slam or no slam. But this year it was like, well, nothing like. I didn't feel like there was because again, especially on the men's side, right? We've got Sinner and Alcaraz. If anybody else loses, it's nothing compared to when they lose, right? They've just set the bar so high. So unless they play an epic match against each other in a final, it's hard to pick, right? I mean, some would say that the ATP Finals final was maybe match of the year outside the slams. Sinner Alcaraz final there because that was probably the most memorable out of the bunch. It's weird though. Maybe we'll just do I don't know. I don't know how we're going to do it because there were some great matches with the ladies outside the slams. So we can't get rid of the category altogether. I don't know. We'll figure it out. It just feels, I don't know, the last couple of years doing that award, it's like, nothing's like the final of a slam. So it's like, what are we talking about? No, we're just giving, the reason we have it is because a lot of those matches get overlooked, but sometimes those matches don't. It's hard to, because Zverev and Sinner in Vienna was nothing compared to most matches at the Grand Slams that, they probably wouldn't even hold a candle to all the Grand Slam matches that we have. By the way, speaking of the Tennis Talk Awards, I have put together a spreadsheet showing all the categories over the years because I was bored. And last year, the match of the year for the non-Grand Slam match of the year last year was Djokovic Alcaraz Olympics. So that obviously was. Actually, you know what? This year is weird because I'm looking at the results throughout the entire the Tennis Talk Awards. 2019 Nadal Medvedev ATP Finals. Remember that? Probably not. You should watch it though because it was Nadal coming back from the dead. He came back from like 5-1 down in the third and a dramatic win over Medvedev. 2020, it was the ATP Finals, Djokovic versus team. Nadal, Djokovic, Rome. Crazy matchup in 2021. 2022 was Djokovic, Medvedev, ATP Finals, which I don't remember that well, but that was on there. And that won. Djokovic, Alcaraz, Cincinnati final was 2023. Last year was the Olympic final between those two. But then, yeah, this year didn't feel... I mean, Sinner Zverev was nothing on any of those levels. Like, this has probably been, outside the slams for the men's, the least memorable. And again, you don't have Djokovic, you don't have Nadal, you don't have Alcaraz versus Djokovic. We didn't have those, Medvedev, those guys. But yeah, I mean, this is probably the weakest outside of the slams it's been on the ATP for some time. Look, I'm not saying they were bad matches. I'm just saying they're not as good as they were. Like last year, the Olympic final, even the Sinner versus Alcaraz Beijing final, even Sinner versus Zverev last year in Cincy, probably better than this year's Vienna final. Alcaraz versus Djokovic, Cincinnati. Okay, maybe we'll keep the category. Maybe this year was just a bit of a dud year. Maybe this year was a little bit of a slow year outside the slams. Also, Sinner didn't play for 3 months, so that didn't help. Maybe the Indian Wells final would have been Indian Wells. Alcaraz versus Sinner in the semis of Indian Wells would have been the match of the year. Who knows? All right, now we're getting to the serious stuff. We've got 4 awards left, and we're going to go to match of the year on the Grand Slam scene. We're going to start with the men's because it was not even close. I mean, if Sinner and Alcaraz was the best match of the year, then Sinner and Alcaraz, they're going to win. By the way, the only reason I didn't put Sinner and Alcaraz US Open final is because they just were in everything else. So we had Djokovic, Alcaraz, Australian Open. Underrated. I think a lot of people, again, maybe forgot how impressive Djokovic was with his leg injury to beat Alcaraz. I mean, even in hindsight, considering Alcaraz went on to do what he did after that. I think Djokovic deserves some credit there for sure. Alcaraz, Sinner, French Open. Alcaraz, Sinner, Wimbledon. And Sinner versus Elias Seaman, US Open. Again, I just didn't want to put Sinner and Alcaraz again, even though maybe the US Open final was better quality. But I thought, hey, I couldn't think of an Alcaraz. I mean, Alcaraz, Fritz, definitely honorable mention for semi-final of Wimbledon. Definitely on that list. By the way, Fritz defeating Alcaraz we didn't even talk about that. Fritz defeating Alcaraz at Laver Cup. Was that an upset? Well, obviously, but was it upset of the year? Probably not. All right. You know what it is. It's obviously going to be the synchronized final in the French Open. I mean, come on now. That one of the greatest matches of all time. Championship points saved. 2 sets of love deficit. Alcaraz coming back. Ridiculous. I think it was the longest French Open final of all time. I mean, the most historic of matches. And it happened in the second tournament back for Sinner. Like, that's what's so crazy. Sinner was gone for 3 months. He comes back and he plays one of the greatest matches of the century. Crazy. And that is and Chad, we should go, maybe we should do that one day. We should do like matches of the century. That has to be up there because I would rewatch the shit out of that match. Like I've rewatched 2008 Wimbledon between Nadal and Federer. That feels like that was 2008 Federer and Nadal level of, I'm going to go back and watch that in 5-10 years. Like I'm going to 20, like I will watch that. Will I watch the 2012 Australian Open final? Maybe, but not as, it's a little bit more of a grind to watch. That match, Sinner Alcaraz French Open final, holy hell. Obviously, the best match they played all year against each other when it comes to closeness. Maybe they have actually played matches where they've had match points either way. But Grand Slam final, they've obviously played some 5-setters before against each other. But Grand Slam final, French Open final, right? I mean, Nadal dominating the French Open, and maybe Nadal playing Djokovic in a final that went the distance was interesting, but. We haven't had too many interesting French Open finals, over the last 20 years because of Rafa. Rafa dominating, that hasn't helped. So maybe this elevates this match even more because we've been waiting so long for an epic French Open final. And we did get one last year with Zverev and Alcaraz, but this was like totally different level. So yeah, I think that I mean, again, 90% of the votes, not even close. Not even close. 90%. Second was Alcaraz versus Sinner at Wimbledon with 6%, which again was a very solid 4-set match, but it wasn't even close. All right, now let's go to the women's match of the year. Grand Slam. This is a very tough category, because there were some great matches at the slams on the women's side. It's because there was so much consistency, and we had so many big clashes on the women's side. You could put 10 matches here. I picked 4, but you could put 10 here. There was at least 10. Keys Swiatek, semi-final. Obviously, Keys. Saving match points. You can put the final of the Australian Open final there too with Keys and Sabalenka. Again, but I only picked one. Gauff, Sabalenka, Roland Garros final. It wasn't pretty. It was not pretty, but it was close and it was dramatic and it was intense and it was crazy. Anisimova, Sabalenka, Wimbledon semi. Great match. Amazing match in that semi-final. And then Sabalenka, Pegula, as I've said, many times since watching that match. Probably my pick for highest quality match of the year. Highest quality match of the year because, it was Sabalenka Pegula was like next level. The way they were playing like their ranking. They were two of the best players on the planet playing the best tennis. So yeah, this was pretty even. I mean, it wasn't super even. There was one obvious pick. And I'm glad you guys remembered because sometimes we all forget what happened in Australia, but it was Keys versus Swiatek. That was match of the year, the second it happened. We said it back then and it was on the list. We made a list. Remember how we made the list of like match of the year as we went along? That did not change. Once Swiatek and Keys played, there was no match could compare to that because of the the drama of the match points. Keys fighting back, the final set tiebreak. Even Swiatek winning the first set and then Keys demolishing the second, like it was again, it's hard to pick because of the match points. I mean, every other match in this category didn't have match points saved, which is definitely a bonus. But yeah, Keys Swiatek match of the year by Grand Slam by 48%. Second was actually Anisimova Sabalenka, 25% at Wimbledon. And then the least, which I think is interesting, and I disagree, only 7% picked Pegula Sabalenka. I think Pegula Sabalenka is if you were going to rewatchability, you'd rewatch Keys versus Swiatek, but I would rewatch Sabalenka Pegula before I'd rewatch the other two matches. I think Gauff versus Sabalenka it would be a hard watch. Even though it's great to see Gauff win and come back and win, but after the first set, it was not pretty. And Anisimova Sabalenka is pretty good, though. That wouldn't have been too bad. I'd maybe rewatch that, but I'd rewatch Sabalenka Pegula all day. That was such a high-quality match. Even though it wasn't maybe not as close as the other matches. But yeah, Keys Swiatek, that's the win. That's the obvious one. We said it at the start of the year, and it was the... Pegula's always underrated? Oh, yeah. Pegula is... we should do a category. Most underrated player. She would win every year. Let me have a look. So last year... Sorry. Let me check at the start of the year. So I had a great idea at the start of the year. We're going to do a rolling match of the year. When every time we'd get a better match, we'd upgrade. It ended in Australia. It was such a... It was a great idea that never happened because we just didn't ever get a better match. We peaked way too early. It was not even close. I'll show you the list before we get to Player of the Year. But Match of the Year was... I thought, oh yeah, we'll do this. We'll upgrade this as the season goes on. Nope. We will not do that because the season will start and end in Australia. All right, let me try and figure out how to put this on the screen. All right, so here was match of the... So we had... It ended in Australia. Like, this is it. This is the match of the year. So we had hang on, wait. There we go. There we go. Match of the year. So we did it. It went for like 3 weeks. But I tell you, Stearns Navarro, we forgot about that match. That's why we did this list, to remind ourselves what was good. Baltic Swiatek at United Cup. Yeah. But yeah, nothing even came close to that. We didn't even have a conversation about what could this be replaced. It was never going to be replaced. Wasn't even close. And then on the men's side, at least we had a couple more weeks, right? We had a couple of months. But even that, like Tien Medvedev was the number one until Alcaraz Sinner final. So like even then, Australian Open, we only changed this list once. Nothing came close to that, which is again, great match. Would have been on the list had other matches not happened. But yeah, Medvedev Tien was a great match. But it still doesn't hold a candle to the final, the French. Not even close. I mean, maybe next year we'll have a bad Australian Open and we can actually like update that list. Maybe we have to do ATP. Maybe we have to do matches outside the slams and slam matches, even though I just said we wouldn't do that. Maybe that's what we'll do. It'd be fun to do match of the year mid-season. That'd be interesting. Midway season match of the year. Anyways, it was a fun idea. Maybe next year it'll work out better. Every month had a different WTA story. True, but also no match came close to that WTA Grand Slam final in the Australian Open final. Almost forgot Navarro was a player. Oh yeah, Navarro had a great. She had great moments at the start of the year, but she didn't have a great season like last year. Match of the month. Yeah, we're going to do monthly matches. That might actually be a better idea. Maybe make best of 3 so there's more chances for... Yeah, we might have to do that. Next year we'll do that. We'll split them into 2 different categories. We'll do 3-set match of the year. Non-Grand Slam match of the year. We'll actually track it next year. Because that'll make it much easier for me to figure out which one was which. Definitely WTA was better than ATP. Yeah, it's because it was more competitive. Match of the year, I mean, unless it's Sinner and Alcaraz, match of the year this year was hard to pick because not many other matches outside of those guys were noteworthy, unfortunately. Tien versus Medvedev, though, that was a crazy match. I remember I almost didn't watch that stream. I remember like going, I'm not going to watch that. And then you guys are like, oh, we got to watch it. Come on, it's going to be good. All right, we'll watch it. And thank God we did. I was up until 4 a.m., but we watched it anyway. And it was thank God. I would have been woken up and gone, what? But yeah, so shout out to you guys for being like, oh, we have to watch that. One more match. Okay, fine, we'll watch that match. Fine. And it was the second best match of the year, apparently. Yeah, it was wild. Yeah. Match of the quarter, yeah. We'll do a match of the week. 40 matches of the week of the year. You could do a match of the quarter, and then they get to go and bracket at the end of the year. Ooh. Interesting idea. We could do something with that. I can think of something to do with that. All right. Now, the final category of the evening or the morning. This was... I don't think this was easy. Picking player of the year this year was not... I mean, obviously, it was... Maybe it was... Well, it was... between 2 players on the men's side. But on the women's side, I feel like maybe it was obvious, but also you could make a lot of arguments because nobody really dominated. I mean, maybe dominate is not the right word, but it was a very even season for the WTA. It didn't feel like anybody was maybe results-wise dominated, yes, but outside of, nobody was clearly better than everybody else. Like, anybody could beat anybody, which is, again, very, very, very interesting. So, we've got Coco Gauff, French Open champion. Iga Swiatek, Wimbledon champion. Anisimova, 2-time Grand Slam finalist. I don't think anybody else made 2 Grand Slam finals this year outside of Sabalenka. So she, huge year. And also 1,000 champions, also, 1,000 titles these ladies had won. And then Sabalenka, US Open champion, world number 1. 56% of the votes actually was pretty one-sided. And it went to Sabalenka! Sabalenka as player of the year. Hard to argue as the number 1. Also did finish number 1 as she was like 5,000 points, 3,000 points ahead. 2,000 points ahead of Swiatek. Yeah. Results-wise, also the fact that she did demand a recount. The thing that it really is interesting about this player of the year, usually it does go to the number 1 player, right? Because usually if you're number 1 in the world, you've had the best year, so you're a player of the year. But I do think that on the women's side this year, you could make a strong case for other players outside of Sabalenka, because even though Sabalenka did consistently do better than everybody in the rankings, made the semifinals made the final of 3 slams, she only won 1. Right? Had she have won 2, no brainer. But I think a lot of people could. It wasn't an overall obvious pick. And Anisimova got 23% of the votes, 15% went to Swiatek, and Coco got 5% of the votes, which I think is because she didn't do as well at the end of the year. But like Swiatek you could easily make an argument second half of the year for Swiatek. Anisimova, a lot of people, she was the second voted. Maybe if she won one of those slams, had she have won Wimbledon or the US, maybe she would have been player of the year and it would have been over Sabalenka. If Sabalenka had won the US Open, that would have been interesting too. But yeah, Sabalenka, I think she won last year as well. Let me have a look. Did Sabalenka win player of the year last year? I'll go through who won player of the year in the last couple of years because I made a list. Just out of my own curiosity. So, player of the year, Tennis Talk player of the year. These have been the champions. 2019, Barty, player of the year. Osaka in 2020, Barty in 2021, Swiatek in 2022-23, and Sabalenka 2024-25. So Sabalenka joins Barty and Swiatek for two-time Tennis Talk Award champions. That's a hell of a list. Barty, Osaka, Swiatek, Sabalenka. Nice. But yeah, let's get to the men's because this is a weird one. This is such very, very tricky. Now, I want to mention, because I know some people are asking, why was Djokovic not on this list? Maybe he should have been. But also, considering that 2 guys dominated the year, I wanted to at least put out there and show respect to Shelton and also Fritz, who both had very good seasons and deserve some recognition. Djokovic, obviously, if we had 5 players on this list, he would have been the 5th player. But again, I don't think he would have been close to winning this anyway. More so, we could have put taken Shelton off the list, but I think Shelton had a good year. FAA could have been on this list. Maybe he deserved to be here. There's a lot of players. We could have had 10 players on this list, right? Maybe we should. Maybe we should have top 10 players, and we'll pick out of the top 10. Shelton, Fritz both had very good seasons. Shelton obviously having a career best year. But it was really between Sinner and Alcaraz. Very tough. Because this is the only category where the YouTube voting was different from the form. Which I don't know why. that maybe it's because we just watched Italy at the Davis Cup. I don't know. Maybe it's because Sinner did well at the end of the year, and people on YouTube gave. I don't know. So basically, Sinner won. Was got the most votes on YouTube, but Alcaraz got the most votes in the form. So, and the votes were like 55-45. So it wasn't even, it wasn't like, oh yeah, well, this guy got more votes on this side and this. It was so split. So they're very awkward. But putting all the votes together, tallying all the votes, and again, this was the hardest category to pick. Very, very close split. And again, don't look at. Actually, you know what? You know what we'll do. I'm gonna put it down to you guys in the chat because you're here. You are here, and you are gonna get the final say because it was, like I said, and we've never done this before. It comes down to you guys. You are going to pick the player of the year because, again, let me go through this while you guys pick. Alcaraz, world number one. He was number one for most of the year, right? He won 2 Grand Slams. He won multiple 1000s. He had a great clay season, one of the all-time. Had he not got injured, he would have maybe won Madrid as well. Sinner won 2 out of the 4 slams, could have won 3 out of 4, made the final of every slam. Was number one in the world at the end of the year for a week, but obviously didn't have enough points to stay there. Finished the year off so strong. Didn't play for 3 months, we all know. Came back, made the final. But Alcaraz, speaking of finals, Alcaraz, he made 9 finals in a row or something like that. 9 finals in a row before losing in, I think it was between Miami and Paris, made the final of every event he played. Along with like 8 titles or 7 titles, right? I mean, Alcaraz by a mile won the most titles this year. Be fair? Why am I? What do you mean be fair? I'm letting you guys vote. This has got nothing to do with me. You're picking. You are getting the deciding vote. Because like I said, on the form, it was Alcaraz, 55%, 41% Sinner. On YouTube, it was 55% Sinner and 40, I think it was like 45% Alcaraz. So that's why I'm putting it down to you guys, because you are voting. And if you're watching the replay and you're not here right now, and you got something to complain about it in the comments. But I'm giving all the people, the 200 people that are here, that have decided to stay up late or rock up here hungover come out of the shops for Black Friday and after battling the crowds and getting your discounts, and you got bruised and battered in the Walmart, and now you're here. You're getting the deciding vote. You deserve it for being here. And I could have picked, but if I picked, then I would have got yelled at. So I'm not picking. I refuse to choose. I get 1 vote. And I don't know what my vote is, to be honest. Shelton. I vote Shelton. So, yeah, my vote went to Shelton. Ooh, chat. We're gonna leave it. We're gonna leave up the poll for another couple of minutes. You gotta vote. You gotta vote. I don't want that smoke now. I don't want that smoke. And in all honesty, I do have, I am torn because I am torn. Let me see if I can put the poll on the screen. Yeah. Actually, no, I'll leave it off because otherwise it'll spoil it. I am torn because had Sinner not been banned, he probably would have been the best player on the planet, number 1 in the world, and it's hard to argue that he wouldn't have been player of the year. But Alcaraz won more titles. he was playing, and it's like saying, I think saying that Sinner didn't play for 3 months is kind of like saying, well, so-and-so was injured, so that was player of the year, but then he got injured. You're like, well, that's not. You got to factor in who was playing and who was available throughout the entire year. Because it's not player of the last 6 months. It's not player of the October. It's player of the year. So if you weren't there and you weren't playing, that's too bad, you know? So, but again, it's tough because you go, well, if he was there, he would have this, and if that, you know. Oh, it's 50-50. Can people please keep voting? We can't have 50-50, otherwise I'm going to have to flip a coin. And we can't have player of the year come down to a coin toss because that's ridiculous. I'm not going to do that. That's crazy. Okay, if you are still thinking who the hell am I going to pick? Let me go through some more stats for you, okay? Let me go through some stats. So Alcaraz, he played 15 tournaments, and he gained 16 tournaments, 12,000 points in ranking, 11,050 for Sinner, right? If you don't care about ranking points, where is the... What the hell? Sinner won slightly more prize money, if that makes any difference to you. Where is the... There should be a thing that says titles won. Oh, here we go. Alcaraz, he made 11 finals, won 8 titles. And like I said, I think he put 9 in a row. Including 3 Grand Slam finals in a row, obviously, as well. Sinner made all 4 Grand Slam finals, though. Let me go through Sinner's results for the year. So Alcaraz, he also won 71 matches and lost 9, with 2 of those to Sinner. He did have probably worse losses than Sinner, but again, worse losses than Sinner. But in the clay season, he only had 1 loss. Dominated. Between losing to Runa at Barcelona and losing to Sinner, the French, he put together something like a 20-something win streak. And then between Sinner and Fritz at the Laver Cup, he put together another long win streak as well. So he was putting long win streaks together. When he'd lose, he'd turn that around and he'd remember, or he would stop that. 58 wins for Sinner, 6 losses. Griekspoor, Alcaraz, he lost to Alcaraz 4 times. Bublik and Griekspoor were the only 2 other guys outside to beat him. And like I said, Griekspoor didn't beat him. He got a retirement victory. He outlasted him. But yeah, 4 out of the 6 were against Alcaraz, which is interesting because when we say player of the year, I know we don't really want to say like, head-to-head matters, but maybe that's a deciding factor too, that, well, when they played each other, Alcaraz won more than not. And that's got to be something to be said about that. That Sinner was great, but then Alcaraz was better when they played, at least for the most part this year. Sinner obviously put together a really good win streak at the end of the year as well. Didn't play for the 3 months, but when he did play, he made how many finals? Sinner made 10 finals, won 6, lost 4. 4 of those were out to Alcaraz. He actually played Alcaraz in 6 finals this year. Alcaraz was up 4-2 in those finals. He beat Zverev twice in finals, TN and FAA. Whereas Alcaraz, the guys that he beat, because I think that matters as well if you want to do this right. Alcaraz made 11 finals, so 1 more than Sinner. He won 8, lost 3, and he beat Sinner 4 times, Lehechka, Fritz, Musetti, and Demonor. So again, it's not like he was playing small events and winning against players that nobody knows. He beat Musetti, top 10. He beat Demonor, not top 10 at the time, but finished top 10. He beat Demonor, who was top 10 at the time. He beat Fritz in Tokyo, top 10, and he beat Sinner multiple times, including 4 times at number 1. When Sinner was number 1, Alcaraz beat him 4 times. And he lost to Sinner and Runa. They're the only 2 guys he lost to in finals, and the one against Runa was you could say was an injury loss because he didn't play the tournament after that. We love Runa, and he got that win. We love that he won that, but he compromised. Alcaraz was compromised. So again, make your choice. It's so close. Oh, God. See, this is it. This is exactly what... There's no... Like, does anyone have any... Carlos Rock. Does anybody have any other way to do this? Because I have no... Like, I don't want to pick. Because that's not fair. I don't want this player of the year to come down to me. One person. I don't want that. I want it to be as... Make it a tie. Dual player of the year. We can't do that. There has to be only one. You can't have two. You can't have joint player of the year. Because then that's going to make people even more annoyed. I'd rather just piss off one half and blame it on the chat than annoy everybody. I'm not picking. I picked Shelton. I told you I picked Shelton. What was the original votes on the combined votes? So that's the thing. So Alcaraz was player of the year for the form, and player of the year was Sinner with the votes. Who won the YouTube one? Sinner. And look, if you want to get real technical, more people voted on YouTube. So if you put them all together, but, see, this is the thing. Personally, I put more, for the Tennis Talk Awards, I put more weight into what's been put in the form. Because I think the people that fill out the form, and most of you guys who fill out the form, I put more stock in that. Because this is the Tennis Talk Awards. Isn't this just like a random award, right? I want to make, I think the form, the votes, vote in the chat. That's why I'm doing a vote now. The form votes for me are a better representation of what, because the people that make an effort to go do that, I put more stock into that. Whereas, again, on YouTube, I mean, I do this too. I'm scrolling through YouTube and I'll just see a random poll. I might not even be subscribed to the channel. I'll go, oh yeah, I'll vote for whatever this is. So on YouTube, I think there's a lot more random people that don't even follow the channel. And I don't, like, not that I don't value what I love that people vote. It's crazy. But I put more stock into the people that, like, make an effort to go to the form, because that's, again, this is not just like, I want to hear what our community think, right? This is the Tennis Talk Awards. This is our thing, where, I want to hear what you guys have to say. That's why you guys pick it. I don't pick it. I'll let you guys pick. What do I think? Like I said, I picked Shelton. Now, because if I pick one, then everybody will... I don't want anyone to change their votes. By the way, it is getting... It's... We're going to keep it up for another couple of minutes, but it's getting to be unanimous, which is interesting. Cam picked Alcaraz. Now I'll tell you who I pick out of those two when the votes are done. Because again, I don't want to sway the votes. Like I said, Alcaraz made 9 finals in a row, won 8 of those titles. The only man to consistently beat Sinner, who is on the other side of Player of the Year. But again, Sinner didn't play for 3 months. If he had played, he probably would be world number 1. He probably would have won more titles, more matches than Alcaraz, maybe. This is very weird. It's very one-sided. It's turning out to be not one-sided, but it's very obvious now, according to the votes. Coulda, woulda, shoulda. What did Nadal say? Nadal retired last year. He's not playing. He wasn't in the votes. As Sinner fan, I'm not saw if Alcaraz wins, he deserves it. Okay. I think in the next 5 years, Alcaraz will be more than Sinner, but after those 5 years, will be Sinner will be more. Okay. All right. We're going to call it in a minute. You got 1 minute to get your last votes in. And if you're watching the replay and you're like, what do you mean? This is crazy. Comment down below. Comment down below. This is by far that we've never had to go to it's never been this close. We've never had to do this. It's usually been like, oh, player of the year, this person, obviously. Last year, for example, let me go through player of the year for the last couple of years. So 2019, player of the year was Nadal. Djokovic won player of the year in 2020, 2021. 2022 went to Alcaraz. 2023 went to Djokovic. And last year, Sinner won. And I think that was pretty obvious last year. He won player of the year last year. So, yeah. So, again, crazy company. Sinner, Alcaraz, Djokovic, Nadal, player of the year for the last 7 years. 6 years. And I don't think there was ever really Djokovic 21, obviously. Djokovic 2020. There's an argument there. Nadal obviously was there too, doing well. Nadal 2019, you could have made an argument for Djokovic or Nadal then. Last year was Sinner. 2023, Djokovic, I think that's obvious. Alcaraz 22, again, you could have made an argument for Nadal. Maybe Rafa should have won more. Maybe Rafa should have won more. All right. And just so the people watching at home, or watching later, I should say, maybe you're watching at a bar, just so you know what chat have voted, because I don't want anyone to comment being like, I can't see the poll. Let me put it on the screen so that everybody can see who everybody voted for. That was live in this chat at the right time. If you weren't here, why not? Where were you? Why were you not here? All right, let me get this. Why can't this work? God, what a build-up. We just need a drum roll. Anyone got a drum roll? Keep voting. The votes are still open. Keep voting. Just trying to figure out how to stream again. Oh, there we go. All right. All right. How many can there be more votes than watching? I don't know. It's magic. Maybe people came in and went, I'll vote, and then they run away. All right. Here is the poll. Now, this is also the player. I'm not going to go back to the other screen because this is how we're going to announce player of the year. So, as voted by you, again, thank you everybody for voting. I know, can be a pain in the ass, but I appreciate it. Thank you for voting either on YouTube or choosing the form. But it came down to the chat, who have been here on and off throughout the entire year. I gave you the power chat, and you are the ones to blame. So if you don't like it, you got to talk amongst yourselves, right? I'm not accepting any complaints. The hotline is closed. Nobody can call me. The manager is out of town. With 50% of the chat votes to decide Player of the Year. The winner of Player of the Year for 2025 is... too hard to read on the screen. Is Sinner. Why can't I play sounds? This is... Yes! Jannik Sinner is the Player of the Year as voted by you. Tennis Talk Player of the Year. Tennis Talk, you voted. You voted. You voted. And like I said, YouTube did say, well, when I say YouTube, the majority of people did pick on YouTube Sinner. So Sinner, winning Player of the Year, was the more... He got more votes, for sure. So there it is. Jannik Sinner is the Player of the Year. Jannik Sinner is Player of the Year. 55-45. Protest? Hey, look, like I said, you take it to the Discord. But again, most people on the forum voted Alcaraz. 55%. It was actually 55 Alcaraz on the forum, and then it was 55% on YouTube, and then it was 55% in the poll for Sinner. So again, look, I can't blame that it went down to the wire because it was such a hard season to pick, and that 3-month gap that Sinner has is so hard to ignore. And I know a lot of people that pick Alcaraz were like, "But that shouldn't count." I know it shouldn't. Would I pick Alcaraz? See, I look at the 3-month gap, like I said before. I look at the 3-month gap as if an injury, right? Like we didn't pick Draper for most improved because he didn't play enough, right? So I think if you take away the 3 months and you just say that you black that out as if Sinner, let's say Sinner was injured, would we be thinking the same thing? I don't know. Would we be thinking the same thing? Like, if he didn't play for 3, maybe we would think of the same thing. But based on matches played and what they were played, I might lean Alcaraz. Also, again, I mean, if it's 50-50, the way I would decide personally would be like, okay, well, who was better against who? Alcaraz was better against Sinner. So I would possibly, but again, I don't think you could, I mean, somebody could say something in the chat right now and I'd be like, oh, well, that makes sense. Sinner wins. Like, I'm so on the fence about it that I think based on time played and matches played, Alcaraz should win. But I can totally understand why people thought Sinner should win too. And if you're not happy, comment down below. Who did you think's player was the year? Why was Djokovic not voted? Not an option? Maybe Djokovic. Maybe the Djokovic fans they picked Djokovic. Maybe they wouldn't have picked Alcaraz in spite of Sinner. I don't know. Or maybe they wouldn't have picked Sinner in spite of Alcaraz, right? The Djokovic fans, maybe they would have picked him and maybe the votes would have been different had Djokovic been an option. Maybe I should have thought of that. But also, I just put up whoever I thought. Djokovic was the fifth player. By the way, where are the Djokovic fans? Who did you pick? Or did you refuse to choose? You picked Fritz, or maybe? Djokovic and Carlos fans, maybe? That is corrupt. You're in the chat. You just burned yourself. Chat's corrupt. You just called yourself corrupt. It's crazy. Who said the ban was Alcaraz's fault? That's wild. Picked Carlos, okay. Crazy. But yeah, look, very tough. And again, definitely the toughest out of all of them. I mean, there was, in a year that was very, very, there was not very many things on the ATP outside of Sinner and Alcaraz, but when you put them next to each other and you have to vote for who was better and who was better this year, very tough. Because it was a no-brainer that they played the best matches, they played the most important matches, and it was the best rivalry and all that stuff. And then when they lost, it was the biggest upsets, right? If we're looking at who won the categories, or who was when they were in just like when they play tournaments, when they were in the votes, the only reason the French Open, the big reason the French Open won Slam of the Year was because of the finals, especially the men's final. The ATP WTA finals, won that mainly on the men's side because of the Sinkeraz final. So, and then matches of the year, the biggest upset was Sinner, right? Match of the year outside the slams was Sinner. He was in that. Alcaraz was the other votes, which easily could have picked them. Picked one of, Gauff and Norrie beating Alcaraz. Again, it's because of Alcaraz that those are even considered. French Open final, no-brainer. So, yeah, again, I think they won every category that they were in. That's just the year. That's just been the year. It's been the year of Sinkeraz. Is there any video of seeing Cam playing in some tournament? Yeah. I played like a thing earlier. I played tennis before. Yeah, I played tennis once before. Mia has 6% of the vote shared, and she picks Alcaraz. What? She's asleep. Sinner won AO despite playing Davis Cup both years. Now with the extra rest, skipping this year. I would love to see him dominate three-peat. Okay, maybe. I voted for Sinner because, in my opinion, he did better in the most important tournaments, Grand Slams and finals. Yeah, fair enough. She held up a sign, you missed it? Oh, I have to watch the replay. No, Nightbot didn't vote. Hey, Isabel, thank you for the 38 months. Sinner won 6 tournaments, play 12. Didn't Alcaraz win 8 and play 16? So, that doesn't change. That's the same. They both were as successful as each other. Anyways, like I said, don't argue with me. I didn't pick. By the way, before we leave, because this is the last stream, or at least the last of the 2025 season, then everything going forward is going to be previews for the future. By the way. Cam becomes bashful of his tennis career. Bro, if I didn't get that knee injury, I would have been... God, you don't even want to know. I wouldn't be here. I'd be there. Somewhere. Wimbledon. That damn knee injury right at that wrong time. Right? God, chat. If it was a movie, you wouldn't believe it. Carlos versus Fonseca exhibition. Well, yeah, I'm getting to that. Jeez. Wait a second. I'm just getting to that. We'll get there. Valentin, do you want me to go through my predictions outside of the normal stuff, or do you want me to talk about what do you want me to do? God. By the way, I'm going away next week, so we're not going to do anything next week. So yeah, so we've got December. I don't know if Fonseca's playing though, because Fonseca pulled out of the next gen finals. So I don't know what he's right. Is he going to play? He should play. Now, Raducanu's not playing, so that's a shame. But Alcaraz is playing that. Then the next-gen finals, again, by the time we get to that, when I get back on Friday, probably next week, when I get back from my holiday, it's a long off season. We got this is a long year. Because even after Christmas, there's nothing. Tennis doesn't start until the new year. officially. But yeah, we could watch some exhibitions if I can find them. Got to do something. Enjoy the week off. Yeah, I'm excited. I haven't been on a plane for a year. Waiting for you for the AO. Well, okay, but there's others. I mean, don't be a stranger. I would love to try and do the. I would love to do the Tournament of Champions again, but I just don't know if I can set it up properly. But again, I'll see when I get back, then we'll see. United Cup starts on the 2nd of January. But yeah, I'd love to do the Tournament of Champions. Because that was really fun a couple of years ago. But I just don't know how I can set it up properly, because it took a lot of time to put together, and I don't. Yeah, when I get back, and I've been away and hopefully not sunburnt, then yeah, then I will figure out what we can do. When you say just don't know, we know you're going to do it. I want to do that. I think the Tournament Champions is fun. I think it was so much fun when we did it 2 years ago, and it's that or do nothing. And I'm like, well, it's not real work. I don't know if you saw, but Gil got engaged. Oh, nice. Congrats. Get sunburned, you go to Canada. Definitely don't go to Europe. I don't have time to go to Europe. That's awesome. Congrats to Gil. Any plans to watch exhibitions? Yeah, we will if I can find them. That's the problem, though. I love, we watch them, but if I can't find the stream, then we can't watch them. So it's just a matter of I've got them all written down, so I can see what's happening. But if I can't watch them, then we can't do them. I don't have Tennis Channel. Tennis Channel doesn't exist in Australia, so I can't watch them if they're not on. If they're not available. But we'll see. We will see. Yeah. Also, I'm hoping, I don't know when Quality Shot's going to bring out the awards, Quality Shot Awards, but I'm hoping to jump on again and do a collaboration with Quality Shot like we've done the last few years. So that'd be fun. I just got to make sure I get a good internet connection where I'm going. So where am I going? I'm going to Indonesia, which apparently is going to be raining, but really hot. So, and it's out of my house. If I can leave my house for a week, it's very hard to do. It's hard to leave my house. Be a good stream. Yeah, I don't think it's live. I think it'll be a video. So I don't think they're doing it live. But Jollibee, I don't think is in Indonesia. But if it is, I'll eat it. I'll find it. I love your last streams with last year's stream, College. Yeah, it's fun. I love it. That's good fun to talk about the year, and again, because there's things I missed because there's just so much going on. So it's really fun. I don't know who's on, but no. You'll have to wait and see. You have to watch it. You'll have to watch it. We're supposed to get like 8 inches of snow tomorrow. Well, I'm not going to the snow. All right, last thing. So chat. All right. So if you remember, and maybe some of you don't, because I forgot this until like a week ago. Gil chose Player of the Year for Carlos, and I respect it. Yeah, well, like I said, if I was picking, I would probably lean Carlos too. But that's the beauty of the Tennis Talk Awards, and I learned from the first year, because year one of the Tennis Talk Awards, I made the choices. And that didn't go down well. So from then on, from 2020 onwards, I made it you guys vote because the Tennis Talk community get to vote for the awards. And it wasn't because of that. That was just a joke. It was mainly because the ATP don't let the fans vote. They vote for the fan favorite, but then everybody, like the way they do the voting for those events, and the WTA as well, it's just like the nominations are strange, and then like the winners are like, wait, who picked that? So that's why we do this, and that's the main reason is because I think some of these things should be voted by the people that watch tennis all the time, or at least people that are in the game all the time, men and women's tennis. That's what we cover it, so we might as well do it. But yeah, I'm never picking. I learned my lesson by picking in the 2019 Tennis Talk Awards. I can't remember. I picked something and it was just like shit show. I'm like, I'm not gonna. And it doesn't. For me, I'm like, I like it being. I like you guys voting for the awards because we watch them. We watch the matches. For most of them, we watch together, and then we track this all year. So it's fun for you guys to. It's fun for you guys to have your say, and not just be down to whatever the ATP and WTA are choosing. The title went to Sinner, yes. Good news in the chat, and not Cam himself. Yeah, you guys picked Sinner, so yeah. Again, I would have like I said, I was leaning Alcaraz. I think Alcaraz, based on matches played and based on active tennis, yes, there was a 3-month gap, but based on active tennis, I think, and also if it's 50-50 and it comes down to, you got to go, okay, Sinner versus Alcaraz won more. So I would lean Alcaraz. But the 3 months makes it all weird. That 3-month break is really weird. The 3 months off, like next year we'll have a much better understand. Like this year was like the start of this year was so for the men's side of things. Even before the season started, we didn't know what was going on with Sinner. Right? It was such a. I'm so glad we got a result from that situation because if it dragged all year, that would have been so annoying. Yeah, Sinner would have played more, but God, it would have been so bad for everyone. So I'm so glad we got a result out of that situation. It didn't like linger because it was lingering for like a year. It was lingering for so long. Not a year, 6 months. It was just like the whole like end of last year was so disappointing. Like it was everyone was so angry. Everyone was so angry at each other, and it was just not fun. Like end of last year on the men's side was not fun. At least once Sinner came back, maybe it got Sinkeraz was dominating, but it didn't. At least it wasn't like angry. People were pissed off about the ban for a short amount of time of whatever you believe in, but at least we could enjoy the tennis with the best players in the world, and there was no cloud of somebody getting banned. And look, you might not. Everyone has their belief, but again, if he was banned for longer, French Open final doesn't happen. So for tennis, I think it probably worked out well. But if you don't like or you don't agree, then I understand that too. All right, now let's get to the most important part of this: is my predictions, which are always right. This is going to be we're going to finish with a. Oh, God, this is going to be terrible, isn't it? It's a bad idea. It's a bad idea. We're going to do it anyway because this is why we're here. I can't fix it. It's not working. Oh, well, I guess we're not going to do this segment, so that's fine. C-. Don't grade. Don't give me a grade. That's not what this is about. This is not. Don't take this so seriously. All right. Again, thank you everybody who did vote on on the awards as well, because I know like it does take time out of your day. It's not like a, you know, it isn't a. How's this going to work? I don't know if you can see that. No, oh well. Can only do that. All right, we'll have to do it another way. Still B+, thank you. Appreciate that. I know Gil went through all his predictions. I saw him put a video up and go through his predictions, and I went through my predictions. What are you talking about? Did you not see my WTA top 10? I'm going to hold on to that for 12 months. By the way, I'm not going to defend my predictions, but I'm not that bad. If you're 100% on predictions, you're a liar. No stalling. I'm trying to do three things at once. I'm trying to figure out how to do this. All right. All right. Hopefully this doesn't look terrible. All right. So, at the end of... I don't even know when I did this. Did we do this in Australia? Maybe in Australia? I went through a little bit of unorthodox predictions. It was an unorthodox... You know, because we got like all the predictions, like, oh, who's the best player? And, you know, with all the average, you know, all the stuff that everybody knows, you know, best player of the year and blah, blah. But I wanted to make some random-ass predictions about things that were not so obvious. So let's go through those together because that's fun. Okay. So 2025 predictions, like I said, they're a little bit unorthodox, but let's go through them together. Starting with Sinner will get banned for 3 to 6 months. Now, chat, I am on fire. Because I picked that. I thought 6 months would be... It seemed like it would be like maybe 4 months would be fair. 3 to 6 months. And he was banned for 3 months. So I get that. Zverev will win a slam. Well, that's... He made the final of the Australian Open. I was close. Osaka winning a title and seeded at the US Open. Now, she was seeded at the US Open, right? Pretty sure she was. Pretty sure. Was she seeded? She did win a title. She won a title, a challenger event, which I'm counting because I can. And I will. I will count it. Let me have a look. So, Osaka was seeded 23. So that's a green. Let's go. I'm on fire. Andreeva will be top 10, but not at the end of the year. Now, I am actually not that mad at this prediction because we all forget, again, like at the start of the year, we all forget that at the start of the year when I made this prediction, so many people got pissed off at me because everyone's like, oh, she's going to be top 4. What are you talking about? Whenever I did this, I think I did this it must have been during the Australian Open. Or maybe it was during, was it in March? Maybe I did this in March. It would have been, actually, you know what? It was post-Australian Open. It wouldn't have been March because Sinner wasn't banned yet. It must have been during the Australian Open. Because Sinner got banned in February, so it had to be. But at that time, what was Andreeva ranked in Australia? I mean, she was top. Where was she? So she was 15 in the world. Okay. But a lot of people were like, dude, she's going to be top 10 and you are crazy. And I was for a long time. I was crazy and I am crazy. But she almost fell out of the top 10. She was number 9. She ended number 9 by a fair gap. But she wasn't as strong as she was when I said that she wasn't going to be in the top 10 at the end of the year. But she did get in the top 10, so that's a half. I get half a point for that. Is that how we're doing this? Are we scoring this by 1 point? Half a point. She will be in top 10, but not end of year. So she was top 10, but she was end of year, so that's 50%. So I'm going to give myself half a point because that's how we're doing things now. We will not get a random WTA. Now, this is where we need to... Red, no point. 7... Make it orange. It's a mixture of green and... It's a green for me. Well, it's definitely not because she finished the year inside the top 10, so I can't claim that. We'll call that a draw. Thank you. Yeah, see, I said she would be in the top 10, but not end of year. So I was half right, half a point. That's how you get half right, half a point. It's like Zverev. I should get half a point for Zverev because he didn't win a slam, but he was in the final, right? Now that was a definite like. Anyways, I get half a point. Trust me, it gets worse. So I need every half point I can get. Okay, so I am. You may disagree with me with this one. I don't think we got a random champion, and you can say Keys was random, but I don't think she was as random as when I said random. I was thinking Vondrousova Wimbledon. I'm thinking Krejcikova French Open, Raducanu US Open. Right? I'm thinking like so far out of the possibility that like Mboko at Canada was random. That's what I was like. Keys was on the list of players that could win. She was in the people were picking her for Wimbledon last year, right? She was not so far out of this world of winning. Was it likely? No, it was unlikely because Sabalenka, Swiatek, right? But that doesn't make it random. Yeah, I think there's a lot more randomness last year at the Slams. Maybe not random, but unexpected. So we can all agree. We concur. Green. Roddick will get 100K on his podcast. I think he did, right? Rublev will break the quarterfinal curse. Optimistic. I was hoping... Rublev this year did not have a good year. He made the fourth round 3 times. So now there's a fourth round curse. He hasn't made a quarterfinal since Australia last year. It's been nearly 2 years. Yeah, okay. Maybe I was... Again, this was in February, so maybe... And he just lost in the first round of the Australian Open, so maybe I was a little... Yeah, I don't know why I didn't... Why I was... Maybe I was just being... I was in a good mood. I was optimistic. Because, he made the fourth round. It was a solid year, but he didn't even make a quarterfinal to have a chance to break the curse. Pirika, again, recency at the time. Remember 12 months ago? Pirika winning most aces. He didn't. In fact, it wasn't even... He was top 10, but he wasn't even close to the top. Fritz, most aces, 867. And then Opelka, FAA, Menchik, Bublik, Shelton, and then Pirika with 596. So not even really... I mean, he was just ahead of Zverev. So, yeah, that was... I think we all got very excited at the end of last year about Pirika, and the serve just didn't do as much in this year. Alcaraz will not complete the career slam. Well, no, he didn't. He didn't. GMP's got nothing on Raducanu. Yeah. Raducanu will make top 30. Now, you laughed at me when I made this prediction. You're like, Cam, you love her so much. Why don't you marry her? What are we in high school? Get over it. 4th grade. So, she finished 29 in the world. What can I say? Maybe I knew something. Started the year at 61 and only really got kicking at Washington. So Washington was when she made the semis, and then at the end of the year she was very strong and finished number 29 in the world. So that was probably the most satisfying prediction of the bunch, because I get so much shit for Raducanu for I don't know what reason. You don't have to like her, but why am I getting shit for it? So yeah, she finished top 30, 29 in the world. I believed. I'm a believer. We will get a shock retirement announcement this year. We did. We got a couple actually. The one that shocked me the most was Halep, because she was just coming back from, and I'll tell you who retired, because we'll do a tribute, but not like, yeah, we'll do a tribute, because a lot of players actually did retire this year. But Halep was the one that like really was like, she came back, she played it in I think it was in February, and then she lost in the first round, and then she said, oh, yeah, I'm done. And we were like, wait, but you just came back. We're waiting for you to, you just had the whole saga happen. Oh, yeah. Halep was the one that really like came out of nowhere. Other players that retired on the women's side: Bonaventure, Bouchard, Cornet retired. I think she retired. Did she come back? She retired and came back and then retired again. Davis, Garcia also retired, and Kvitova was another big one that retired as well. So yeah. And then Halep, I think Halep was the biggest shock though, because I think we all expected Kvitova and maybe felt Garcia was sort of with, doing her podcast and stuff. You thought, oh, maybe she's trying to like, maybe she's going to transition into doing that instead. And, it kind of felt like she was maybe, but for me, Halep was super out of nowhere, because we were all expecting like, oh, if she comes back, maybe she could do this. And then she just went, no, I'm not doing that. On the men's side, Papana on the big one in the doubles, Doddage as well. Edmund was a bit of a shock, retiring at like 29 or something. He's super young. Eubanks, he just retired. Fanini retiring. Gasquet retired as well. Mahou, he retired. Pospisil, Schwartzman, Verdasco. I mean, there was so many retirements, like from players that we all, have watched over the last, decade, most of them, right? Well, at least the last, in the 2020s, a lot of them have been a factor. So, yeah. So, anyways, we did get a shock retirement. Djokovic will win 25 slams. Now, if you watch my prediction video, you'll know why I picked Djokovic to win 25 slams. And I stand by that. I stand by it. Had Sinner been banned for Wimbledon, I reckon Djokovic could have won it. Hurkacz making a slam final. This is probably one of my saddest predictions, because he just couldn't get on the field. He just couldn't get on the court. He came back. He had Lendl. He had Masu. I'm like, oh, here we go, Hubie. Here we go. Come back. He had a horrible end of last year, knee injury and horrible. And it's like, oh, man. Come on, Hubie. And I had him in the top 10 as well. Like, I was very optimistic on Hubie, and unfortunately just couldn't get it. Like, he couldn't keep himself fit. The injury lingered. So that's one of my. Maybe if he didn't make a final, if he made a quarterfinal or had a good run, I would have been like, yes. But one of the nice guys of the tour, but just couldn't get on the park. Draper will struggle. Now we have to discuss this, because some of you are going to say no, Cam. How could you struggle when you win tournaments and you make finals and you do great things? And I'm going to argue what I think. Like, I'm going to let you tell me. I'm going to let you tell me in 1 second. You tell me. You discuss. Did Draper struggle? Let me see what everyone's saying. Did Draper struggle? Did he struggle? Yes, with injury. I think he did. He will come back stronger. Draper struggled after Wimbledon. Draper struggled due to injury. Where's the halftime show? Sorry, Eminem was busy. Draper will struggle. I never cared for the phrase. Wait, what? Draper had a decent year. Draper struggled to stay healthy. I think he did struggle. Okay, so it feels like 50-50. You're saying, are you reading what I'm reading? I think most people said he did. Most people are saying he did struggle. At least he struggled. And when I say struggled, I was basing it off 2024 when he struggled with injury. Because that's been Draper's struggle. Like, I thought that, I didn't think Draper was not going to have a good year. That was not what I was saying. I didn't think he would struggle results. I thought if he plays, and he did win, right? The struggle for me, and I should have put like struggle with injury, I should have made it more specific. But it was struggle physically. I thought by the end of the year, like he started great, but I thought, how long is this going to last? Because he has broken down before. And remember, we did this during the Australian Open, which he had just retired against Alcaraz. So I should have said struggle with injury. Maybe I need to be more specific with my thing. So I'm going to say, well, you guys are telling me that he did struggle, which means that statement is true. He had a great start to the year. Oh, yeah. His results, by the way, when he did play, he didn't struggle. It was overall, did he struggle? Yeah, he did. He struggled with injury, right? He had a tough time of injuries. We've been live for 3 hours. Jesus. You're still here? Krejcikova Big Four Barbara. Didn't happen. There was no Big Four Barbara, which was a bit disappointing. I was always fun to see Big Four Barbara, but she didn't show up this year. She did have a lot of injuries. I think at the start of the year, she had like a hand injury, I think, right? So yeah. Mukova top 10 also didn't happen. And if you watch my prediction video that I put out the other day, you'll also see why. Just didn't. Unfortunately, Mukova just didn't. She got, I think, close to like number 13, but she just didn't break into that top 10. Just couldn't. And she also had injuries on and off, which is a shame. Tsitsipas will drop out of the top 20. Well, one of my I don't like doing predictions that are like negative predictions. I'm not a big fan of like, oh, this thing will not, this player will be bad. I don't like doing that. But I think that was one of the things that I thought that we had to put something there, and him dropping out of the top 20, which he did. I think he dropped out of the top 30. And he was the only player that I could see having it seemed like he was going backwards, and he got Goran, and I thought that would be the turning point, but he obviously that didn't work. Italy does not win Davis Cup, lol. Yeah, well, that's because I was hoping Australia would win. Sabalenka finally wins Wimbledon. Oh, God, I was close. She made the semis again. She keeps making the semis. She will win Wimbledon. Don't you forget it. I'm telling you, Sabalenka will win Wimbledon. Team World win the Laver Cup. Let's go. We sure did. Taylor Fritz, MVP. Italy doesn't win the Davis Cup. Now, I'll tell you this. When I remembered that I did these predictions, and I saw this, I'm like, hang on. Sinner's not playing, no Musetti, Alcaraz. Spain are going to win. Davis Cup isn't going to Italy again. And then it did. But, so I got that wrong. But Davis Cup is so interesting to me. Caboli was amazing. At the start of the week, last week or whenever, when the Davis Cup's played, if you had said to me, Italy going to win, I'd be like, they might make the final, but there's a lot tougher teams. And then Alcaraz pulled out, and I was like, Czechia is still tough. Even Germany could have been really tough, right? And Spain were tough. But Berrettini-Caboli, I did not think Like I knew Berrettini, but I was like, Caboli number 1. You earned my more. I respect him already because I think Caboli had such a great year. But like to fill Sinner and Mussetti's shoes as like you got to lead this team, he did a hell of a job. So I'm not mad that I got that wrong. But yeah, the Caboli. I mean, if you didn't know who he was before Davis Cup, remember him because he is. Caboli is, he might get overshadowed by all the other Italians, but you should keep him on your list. Paolini won Rome. Yeah, she did. Fonseca slam run. Now, we need to discuss this because at first I was like, well, he didn't, because a slam run he made the quarters, right? But I want to put a case forward that he did make a slam run because in Australia he came through the qualies and he made the second round. He lost in a 5-set. That's if you're playing main draw, that's a quarterfinal, right? That's a quarterfinal right there. Also made the third round of Wimbledon and the third round of the French. Remember, chat, 12 months ago, Fonseca had not played a Grand Slam match. He hadn't played a match at a slam. He didn't even play qualies. This year was his first year in the Grand Slams. And he made the second round or better at every single one. He won 9 matches and lost 4. But I need you to discuss. Slam run means second week. Is that what we're saying? I'm asking. I think he... Did he have a slam run? He was decent at slams. That's 2 different things. I would need to discuss that because maybe you guys will give me the point. Who said no? Yeah, ban them. Who said no? Ban them. I think a slam run means semi-final. Nah, semi-final's too much. I think a slam run means second week. And look, if I'm going to be honest with everybody, when I said Fonseca will make a slam run, I thought he's making the 4th round or better. That was my initial thought. I thought if he makes the 4th round of French, I'm counting that as a slam run because that's an amazing achievement. 4th round, yeah, I think if you make the 4th round or the second week, you've gone on a bit of a run. Especially if you're if you're not a seed. If you're seeded, if you're number 10 in the world, you need 4th round is not good enough. But if you're an unseeded player, Fonseca getting to the second week, I think that counts as a slam run. So I will not claim any point. I agree reluctantly. 4th round or better, I would say. Yeah, for an unseeded player, 4th round or better. For a seed, quarterfinal or better is a run. Is in my head. That's kind of like 4th round or better for an unseeded player is a hell of an effort. Like with Lease in Australia, that was a run, right? That was a run. You tried to rig it with the qualies. I was just asking a question. I don't know what you're saying. It's not rigged. I was asking a question. And you answered. So, who did have a slam run? Let me check. Bublik at the French. That's a slam run. That was a slam run. Sonigo in Australia, quarterfinal. That was a slam run. Yeah, Bublik. Remember Tiafoe made the quarterfinals of the French? I forgot that too. That's crazy. He pushed Musetti as well. Yeah, 4th round for an unseeded player is a run. I think is a run. And he didn't. He made the 3rd round, but he didn't get to that next round. Which is unfortunate, because next year he will. Caboli at Wimbledon. Yes, yeah, that was a slam run, for sure. Now, this was optimistic, and, Chad, I just want everyone to get along. But unfortunately, the Russian and Belarusian ban is still a thing. Even though it's weird, because they're not really banned. I mean, they're only banned from team events. And it kind of sucks because Sabalenka doesn't play Billie Jean King Cup, which could be very interesting. On the women's side, Russia have very good players. Alexandrova, Andreeva, right? Schneider, they're a very good team. And the fact that we don't get to see them at this stage, and even on the men's side, like it feels like Russian tennis on the men's side is going a little bit backwards because Rublev and Medvedev dropping and Hashanov and, you know, they've all kind of dropped off a little bit. And it kind of feels like, and you have to remember, on the men's side for the Russian tennis, they were winning everything before the ban. They were doing well at the Olympics in 2021. They won the Davis Cup. They won the Billie Jean King Cup. They won the ATP Cup. They're a very strong team. And not having them in these tournaments, we'll look back whenever this is removed. And it might get removed soon. Who knows? You know, hopefully. We're going to look back and go, oh, man, you know, where was Medvedev and Rublev, you know, for Team Russia against Italy in those three? I mean, that would have been epic, right? Or where was Andreeva? And Andreeva's going to get her chance to play, and Schneider will as well. But they're a great doubles combo. Oh, why Billie Jean? Would Italy be dominating on the Billie Jean King Cup if Russia were there? What a clash that would be, Russia-Italy. Like, and even United Cup, they haven't even got to play that yet. You know, and Sabalenka, I don't know how much she represents Belarusian tennis on the team circuit, but I'm sure she wants a chance to go and play Billie Jean King Cup as well. You know, and that's the best player on the planet right there. She doesn't get to play. So I'm hoping that next year it gets removed. And I don't know what, I know what has to happen, and it's out of my pay grade. It's above my head. But yeah, let's just hope that we get to see the team, them back in the team event, so we can get a better picture of who's the best tennis nation, because I think we're missing at least one very strong country in the team events. Now, Zverev beats Fritz. Well, that didn't happen. He had chances too, and I was getting so excited when I was seeing them play, but then I thought, oh, maybe they'll play at the ATP finals, or maybe so they only played twice this year. Technically 3 times if you count the Six Kings. They played in Stuttgart on the hardcore the clay on the grass, and then they played at the Laver Cup. And both times Fritz won straight sets. It was close, but straights. And Zverev had one of the funniest after match speeches in Stuttgart. If you go listen to it, it's hilarious. It was a joke wrapped in truth. It was one of those, like, I'm going to tell jokes because I really am annoyed. Like, it was, you know, it was, you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, he's like, I really don't want to see you again. It's like, ha ha ha. Wait, are you serious? Man, they only played twice though. I was hoping, I think Zverev will beat Fritz eventually, but not this year. More money exhibitions. That happened because Six Kings Slam 2 was announced, which wasn't a thing. It wasn't official at the start of the year. What other exhibitions came along? I mean, there's a lot of exhibitions coming up in December. What other things came up? Does anybody else remember? What other exhibition? I mean, the big money exhibition was the Six Kings Slam got renewed. I'm just trying. There was another one, wasn't there? Am I stupid? What else was there? What else was there? There was something else. In March, there was one with Osaka and Fritz. Yeah, wasn't there one? Wasn't there a Vegas one? Or something? There was something else, wasn't there? I swear there was another exhibition in like March. Before Indian Wells, wasn't there? Am I getting confused? I mean, do we count the US Open mixed doubles as an exhibition? Because that turned from like, that was a Grand Slam, but it was also not, it was a money tournament. Not an exhibition, doesn't count. Celebrity doubles, yeah. I mean, the mixed doubles definitely felt like it kind of turned into a very high stakes, high money. I mean, they only had one, well, the doubles team that won, right? They were the only team that were going to be combined to play the doubles if it had been normal. But everybody else was kind of invited as a singles player. Yeah, it wasn't an exhibition, but it didn't feel like a Grand Slam doubles lineup. Anyways, we did, and it was worth a lot of money. And this continues next year because they're going to have a lot of like exhibitions next year, which are like not even exhibition. Well, they are exhibitions, but they're like those pre Grand Slam, just fun little like the 1 point slam and stuff like that. But if you don't remember, at the start of the year, the Six Kings Slam was not confirmed. We didn't have that confirmed until March, I think. So there was nothing. We didn't know that the Six Kings Slam was coming back because we didn't know who was going to play. And then Draper was in there because maybe in Miami or after Miami, that's when we got confirmation it was coming back. So when I did this, nothing had been announced. So more exhibitions were announced. And there's more coming up in December, but that always happens. And Dasha beating a top 3 player. Now, a lot of people are very mean to Dasha, and I take that personal. A lot of people say that because she moved to Australia, she moved to play for Australia, that's when she started playing bad. And I hate that is brought up. I don't like it. I just leave Dasha alone. Because if you've ever moved country, and maybe you haven't, but if you've ever moved to another country, it's a lot of work and it's stressful. And not only does she have to deal with changing nationalities, right? Moving from a place to another place, which is not even close. Australia's in the middle of nowhere. We're on an island out nowhere. But then to do that while you're traveling for work, how the hell are you supposed to find a house when you're in another country playing tennis? Like what a stressful situation. What a stressful situation. And also trying to work out how to play for Australia for Billie Jean King Cup because she wants to do that. And that's not easy to do because there's rules around that. So I please be more compassionate, please. Leave Dasha alone. Now, she didn't beat a top 3 player, but she did play multiple top 10 players. She lost to Pegula, she lost to Andreeva, and she lost to Navarro, who were all in the top 10. And then she beat Badosa in Roland Garros. So she was actually in the top 10 herself in January as well. She was number 9 in the world. So yeah. So she didn't beat a top 3 player. I was ambitious and optimistic because I think that's just a better way to be. I try. It's not easy to be optimistic all the time, but I try. And she will beat a top 3 player. Mark my words. I'm using the chat's term. Mark my words, she will win against a top 3 player in time. In time, she will. We don't need to count how many I got right or wrong because it's not about that. It's about just the fun we had along the way. And it's not about it's just about the fun we had along the way. And we had fun. I'm sure it was fun. We don't need to see this anymore. We can get out of here. Okay, stop yelling at me. No screaming. That's enough. That's it. That's that. Now, chat, we can do 2 things because this has turned into a mega stream. I don't really want to do next year prediction things because I don't have anything in mind and I don't really just copy and paste. And I don't really. I think we'll do them. We'll do them after, maybe because we'll probably do a Christmas stream. Because we have so much time. Like that's the thing about this off season is we're gonna feel like this is gonna be the longest off season ever because it kind of is. Last year the off season was 2 weeks. This year it's 2 months. So exaggeration. It's not really. Don't correct me. I get it. It's not really, but it feels longer this year because Davis Cup wasn't as intense. Without Sinner and Alcaraz, it wasn't as crazy. And then since then, we have an extra week off after Christmas. So yeah. So and I gotta think about So you guys go away and think as well. So we'll do probably a Christmas stream or something. This won't be the last stream of the year. I can guarantee that because I can't help myself. But yeah, thank you all for hanging out and watching and going through your votes for the Tennis Talk Awards. It's been fun. This has been a very long stream, and I did not expect it to be 3 hours. Have fun in Indonesia? I will. I'm just going to go and hang out in the jungle somewhere. That's where I'm going. Not going to the beach. I'm going to somewhere in the middle of it. Why is the end of year stream making me emotional now? Oh, don't worry. We'll be back in like a week. It's only going to be like a week or so. By the time I get back, it'll be a week. I can't wait for the United Cup, Brisbane and AO. Yep. That will be here before we know it. Come to Malaysia. I can't afford it. This was a last minute trip. I literally planned this trip like 3 days ago. It's been a very hectic, stressful 3 days trying to figure out how to do it. But it's the only time I could go. Brisbane or Auckland are underrated? Yeah. Thanks for a great 2025. No worries. By the way, chat, we didn't get to 1,000, but I'm going to gift some memberships so we finish the year off with 1,000 members, which is ridiculous. This is actually... This kind of feels like the final... This is the wrap-up for 2025. After this, we're talking about next year. There's no more, this is the last thing we're talking about for 2025. Everything from now on, after this stream, everything will be looking to the future, looking to next year. All the exhibitions are warm-ups for next year, right? Everyone's having holidays now, but next year, all the December exhibitions, everything's about 2026 now. This is the final part of, so anything you want to say to wrap up 2025, go for it. Anything that you have left to say or comment or talk about, because from now on, everything that's going to be coming out is talking about next year. Next year, all about next year. Asia is on my bucket list, only continent I haven't been to. Oh, wow, really? Well, you should. It's great. If 3 people become members, we can get to 1,000. Well, nobody needs to be a member. I just made 5 people members. There you go. Solid year of tennis on the men's and women's side. Yeah, it's been great. Well, okay, chat, we'll probably do this more on the Christmas stream, but what do you want for next year? Give me a, you know what? No, I want to know the highlight of this year, and we'll talk about next year. What's the highlight of the year? What has been the highlight of the season for you? Hard for me to go past the Sinner Roland Garros final, personally. I think that was one of the most epic matches after all the bullshit we had to go through with the Sinner stuff and all the... it was just such a nice... it felt like such a nice, we went through all the Sinner ban, and when he was gone, the ATP was a bit of a shit show because no one could step up and everyone was all over the place. And then we had that French Open final. It was like, oh, okay, we're back. Everything's back to normal. We've moved. We can move on. That's I felt like it was so much more to that match than just 2 of the best players of the generation playing a generational match. It just had it felt like a relief. It was like, oh, good. We can get back to what we do. We love, right? We don't have to go. We've been through the mud, and we can go forward. That for me was. There was so many. It just felt like a relief. Oh yes, we haven't had this much. We didn't have a match like that from them for almost a year. The 12 months earlier, that was the French Open when they played the last time a 5-set epic. So it was like yes. So yeah, that was for me the highlight on the men's side, a million %. Keys winning Australia, nice. Anisimova dominating the awards. I know she did. She swept. Almost won Player of the Year as well. Shanghai was quite a story. Yeah. Was it your favorite thing of the year? Mahatch's shorts. All right, we'll keep it. Yeah, let's keep it clean. Fonseca getting 2 trophies. Nice. Also, Sinner winning ATP finals at home without dropping a set. Nice. Carlos Euro number 1. Of course, anything Carlos. Day 1 and 2 of Wimbledon was upset crazy. Yeah, it was. Sure was. Least going number 4 in the world, number 1 German. Nice. Coco losing in first round of Wimbledon was your highlight. That's depressing. I hope you have I hope things get better. How we all bent it over Carlitos' hair. I mean, yeah, the Sinkeraz haircuts, they were a whole trip as well. Hey, by the way, Galaxy, thank you for the 44 months, and thank you, Isabel, for the 38 months. Bublik getting in form in career high. That was fun. The Bublik run was great to watch. That was fun. Davis Cup final and is to top it off. Yeah, it was a pretty good final. Osaka's US Open run. Amanda's revenge. We're back in a crazy end of year run. Yeah. Draper Indian Wells defeating Fritz, Carlos, and Runa was nice. Yeah. Eala and the Philippines Revolution. Yes. That was one of my favorite moments too. That was probably the most unexpected thing of the season, because the sleeping giant that is the Philippines in sport, not just tennis, but like Philippines in sport, like Philippines is a sleeping giant. But when they start doing well in any sport, be it football or boxing or basketball or tennis, I tell you, not only do they show up to every single Eala thing that we watch, but they're just so thankful and so grateful for, like, they're just so friendly. What a great addition into the community. You know, they come in, they're all just like super happy and super excited, and I love it. So, yeah, that was really fun. The run was great, but then like watching Eala throughout the year for and inviting and just getting a whole lot of new people into the sport is always great. Like, it just felt like a whole new world of people that are starting to watch tennis. You know, that's great for the game. The Cousins final, yeah, it was a fun story. Rude Draper Madrid, yep. All right, shut. Menchik and Djokovic in 2 tiebreaks. Yeah, that was interesting. Yeah, I think next year, because the Menchik Djokovic thing, that needed to be talked about way more. And unfortunately, by the time we get to now, it's too late. But I think next year, we'll do mid-season awards. I think next year, and it might not be the technical mid of the year, because I think mid-season's Wimbledon, and we're not going to do an award ceremony at Wimbledon. But I'm thinking, what would be a good time? Because one, it has to be at a time when there's not much to do, because it's, you know, but also it needs to make sense that it's at a point in time where we're like, oh yeah, okay, we're halfway through the year, or at least, you know, it's hard because if we do it after Wimbledon, it feels like we're more than halfway through, because three out of 4 slams are done. After the clay point is the midpoint. Okay. So we do it after the Roland Garros. Kick off part 2 with grass. Okay. All right. So mid-season is RG. No. That makes sense. The only problem with that is that there's tournaments straight after the French. If we had a week off, it would be great, but we don't. Queen's Club for the ladies is straight after. But yeah, maybe we'll do a special thing after Roland Garros, because that does feel like at least it feels like a good like reflection point. You know, at a time when we can all look back and go, okay, now we can look back at, we don't have like 12 months of stuff to think about. All right. Cool. All right. Okay, I'm locked in. Yeah, I think it's a good idea, because I think there's a lot of things that we need to at least what do you call it? You know, highlight what happened at the start of the year, because a lot of stuff gets overlooked by this point. So it'd be good to give some credit to the players that did well at the start of the year, which we forget by the end of the year. The mega awards. Yeah, next year's award season. It's award season next year. We're giving out all the awards. All right, chat. I'm out of here. But thank you for hanging out. Long stream. I didn't expect to be. I mean, we didn't do any streams, so we made up for not doing anything this year or this week. But I'll see you when I get back. And I don't think there's anything coming out. In fact, there might not be any much content to do, because there's nothing, unless something crazy happens, which would be nice not to have that happen while I was away. Last year, Swiatek got the news for Swiatek came out. Obviously, we had the Sinner ongoing drama coming out, and there's a lot of things happening this time last year. I hope we have nothing happen. I hope nothing happens, and I come back and it's been nothing. So we'll be back, and we'll start watching some of these December exhibitions whenever we can, and just that's it. If you're not coming back until the start of the season, then have a safe holiday and Happy New Year. I don't know what I'm going to do New Year's, if we're going to do a stream, because sometimes we've done New Year's streams, and we might do one this year, because this year we have no tennis. So doing a New Year's stream I just don't know if I have any other plans, but we might do something. We'll definitely do at least another hangout before Christmas. So we'll do a Christmas hangout, but also we got exhibitions coming up, so we can put them together. But yeah. But thanks for hanging out. Thank you, everybody, for sticking around for the entire season. Hopefully you enjoyed it. This is officially the end of season 7. Season 7 of Tennis Talk. That's it. That's the end of the season. Season 7. Because season 0 was 2018, when I did 3 months of tennis. And this is the official season 7 end. So thank you for all sticking around. I think the channel keeps growing. People keep coming back, so we'll keep going. On to season 8. Also, thank you, everybody, for... thank you, the mods. Especially Deb, of course, who is here all the time, and helping out, keep everybody friendly, and keeping everybody respectful to each other. So yeah, it makes it fun. It's much more fun when everybody's, you don't have to agree with each other, but it's much more fun when everybody's enjoying what we're watching, or at least having fun supporting their player, and not. There's enough people angry and getting a lot of people arguing outside of this little bubble, and we can let them argue over there. We'll just stay in the tennis bubble. We came here to have fun. So shout out to Deb and the mods for all the help throughout the year. And exactly. Yeah, it's just tennis. It's just a sport. But yeah, we'll be back soon. Wish me luck on my holiday. Bye.